Throw some colors on the screen and paint me black and white. I wanna see a thief in a gunfight or a heroine wounded in love. You can keep her lighted by an old flame left to frame, so I can read the feeling on her face, half in shadow, and know I felt that too. In danger and in love, you've got the dreams I was dreaming of, and I've got 2 hours to pretend. So I'll watch a movie with a friend. Time's running sideways, and reality's gotta meet me halfway. So I'll meet it here again. Here's the Trading Movies Podcast with friends.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm talking to Emma Kearney, who is a writer, podcaster, and law librarian. She writes the Restorative Romance newsletter, which is a newsletter for people interested in the bigger picture of what historical romance can be. That is available at restorativeromance.substack.com. And she hosts the Reformed Rakes podcast with two others, right? I believe?
Yeah.
Two others, a historical romance podcast steeped in depravity. The pod is it depravity or depravity? Is it depravity?
I think you could say either. Depravity is how they say it in Cats, because it rhymes with McCavity.
Okay. That's...
So...
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. The pod is available wherever you get your podcasts, and there's also a Patreon at patreon.com/Reformed Rakes. That's REFORMED Rakes, RAKES. You can go to linktree/MKick, EMMKICK, for all of that and her socials, especially her TikTok, which is where I learned about her. Emma, welcome to the show. Nice
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm so excited.
Me too. Thanks for reminding me about Cats. That's like a top 5 movie-going experience for me.
I saw that on my birthday. I made my best friend in law school go see it with me on my birthday, because Cats is like one of my all-time favorite musicals. Like I loved. I'm like a dancing forward musical person over music or plot. Obviously, if I love Cats, and Cats has great dancing, including the movie. The movie has great dancing. Well, it suffers on other aspects of it. The dancing is pretty incredible. But Cats is there's that 1998, I think, filmed production of the stage musical that I watched all the time as a kid. The dancing is just amazing.
Nice. Yeah, you know those things have a name? Like, what is it? It's called like I can't remember the name. I saw it the other day. It was like a live prod. Or there's like a special name for like a film to musical performance.
Oh,
like
yeah. What do they call it? Pro
shot.
Pro shot, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Cats one would not be considered a pro shot because it's like a film. It's a film of the movie, so it's not just a shot. It's not just a film of the stage show. Like there's a little bit more going on with it, but it is the actors from the production. I think it's slightly different.
Is it more like the Dustin Hoffman Death of a Salesman? I don't know if you've seen that, where it's like very stagey. It's really good.
Okay, I should watch that. But yeah, it's like a little bit beyond just a filmed production. But also, I'm not much of a theater person, so I don't know exactly. But there may be in the same umbrella as Pro Shot.
Me neither. I should ask my brother. He's a big theater guy. I'm gonna add that. Yeah, that's a good one. Has John Malkovich in it. Has a bunch of I think Charles Durning's in it. Who's if you've seen Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Yeah. He's constant. That is I almost did that because there was like that TikTok. There's like a TikTok. It's like a your favorite scenes competition. So I was thinking about recreating the I'd like to dance. Have you seen Best Little Whorehouse in Texas? They do a little sidestep. The politician one with Charles Durning. That's like the one musical role I think I could play. Yeah, Cats was wild. I saw it in a Saturday afternoon in this kind of bad old movie theater that is now shut down. It was like sticky. The whole theater was sticky. Everything in the theater was
I know those kind of movie theaters.
Yeah, it was me and my ex and like 3 ancient women on like a Saturday afternoon, and it just felt like an acid trip.
I thought after I think 2 martinis on my 29th birthday, and I was wearing a fur coat, and it was in Indiana. And it definitely caused COVID, right?
You wore a fur coat to Cats?
Yeah, it was my birthday.
Okay, yeah.
And it was snowy because it was Indiana. But yeah, it was like our last movie Christmas before COVID, and it was like this is wild. Obviously, I saw other movies between Cats and COVID happening, but it definitely felt like this was like a harbinger of something terrible to come, and then COVID happened.
Yeah, I think I saw Cats, and then we saw, I want to say it was around the time like Parasite and Uncut Gems were out. So I think I saw those pretty quickly.
Uncut Gems was, I think, Thanksgiving that year, which I made my family go see on Thanksgiving.
You seem like you have a good memory.
Yeah, well, this is a notorious film viewing experience in my family. I picked Uncut Gems as our family movie, and my sister-in-law was there, and so it was the whole family Thanksgiving movie. And ever since then, they're like, you can't pick the movie anymore.
Did they not like it?
It wasn't that they didn't like it. They just thought, like, why are we watching this and going to have like a meal? Like, we need to all like sit in silence and like deal with what we just saw because it's like so harrowing.
Yeah.
And it just, my sister brings it up all the time, but she's the one who's the most like, I can't believe you made us go watch this on Thanksgiving. But she brings it up all the time. She just was like, I never want to see it again. It just was very shocking, I think, to them. And I was just so excited it was playing in my hometown theater that I was like, we have to go see Uncut Gems. And so it was, I've been forbidden from picking the Christmas movie or...
I love it. I love gambling. Don't gamble. I think gambling should be illegal, but I love gambling. And I don't gamble, but I love gambling. So it was just heart pounding the whole time. As soon as like 5 minutes in, I'm just fucking sweating with them, and I loved it.
Well, yeah, gambling is one of those things that I like can't. I've never gambled on sports ever because I can't figure it out. But also, like, I know I need to never figure it out. Like, it's not something I need to learn about myself that I like it because obviously I would like it. So I need to not open that door.
Good. You know what? The business model of that is really dark because they just passed as part of that shitty fucking bill. They just passed a thing. They made it even harder to make money at gambling. It was like, for a second, I was like, you know, the one big beautiful bill or whatever. I was like, oh, it's like they at least have an anti-gambling thing in this. So like, you know, cultural conservatism is doing something for us because like they included this thing of like 5%. I think it's like you get like you can't deduct gambling losses or something. So it's like professional gamblers can no longer like deduct the 5% edge.
Oh,
or
yes.
whatever,
Yeah, I saw this.
Something like that. And so I was like, oh, cool. Someone like somehow I was like, maybe there's one small thing in the thing that's good in the midst of the worst bill ever. Turns out no. Turns out that was like that bill. That even that provision was like written by the gambling industry to try and make like people who are good at gambling not be able to be good at gambling because their business strategy is like definitely don't try it because it's like they have such like these really generous sign-up bonuses and they want to get as many people in as possible because they don't know who's going to be a gambling addict. Like it could be you or it could be me. The research is like, you know, we're both ideal candidates, but so is like our mothers and fathers and anyone else. Like it's just so random. So they try and get everybody in with these generous sign-up bonuses because they make like 70-80% of their profit with like the people basically gambling addicts. So it's like get as many people in the door as you can because you never know who's going to be a gambling addict. And then once you get those people in, then just like make them VIPs, like feed them, pump them, do all this other stuff. So it's crazy that it's like I never thought I'd be like a not even once type of prude. You know, it was like a, you know, don't smoke, don't do this. But yeah, with gambling, it's like especially the sports game, it's like if you have that, it's going to ruin your life. I
just feel like I love sports too much. I hate like when my guy friends. This is mostly who it happens to is like when they're in fantasy leagues and they're like something that is good for their team hurts their fantasy league.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like I can't respect you anymore. Like I'm like this is just so depressing to me, and I'm like I just love watching sports so much. And it's like I like the Premier League fantasy is a little less. It's a little less intense than the soccer. As opposed to like football fantasy or American football fantasy. Like the way that they do it, I did that for one season. I didn't love it, but it was like I can see how this is like more fun. And honestly, like what it does, I think, at least for Americans who play it, it kind of expands what teams you're watching, which is nice. Because you can become very like tribalistic with like what teams you follow, and so you're like, oh, like I'm gonna follow a player because it makes you pick a certain number of players that are outside of like you can't pick a whole team as like your guys, and so it forces you to like follow other players. And also like soccer,
a gambling app right now.
Yeah, soccer's also like a zero-sum game the way that they play in the Premier League. So it's like it feels a little less evil, but there's also less money in it, I think, than fantasy football, which is just like such a racket.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't gamble. Yeah, disregard what Emma said. It's not fun.
Well, I think fantasy. I think for a lot of people play fantasy Premier League and don't gamble. It's like there's no money involved. Like you're just playing for like a lot of the leagues.
Not even once. It's haram. I feel like gambling and honestly like even stuff like AI art and other things, like there's certain things that I think just need to be haram, or I don't know if that's the right term, but like forbidden,
yeah,
or something like that. So
you gotta have the fear of something in you, whether it's God or something.
Yeah. I feel like there's got to be like some type of list that like we can say this is prohibited, this is not prohibited, and I would put sports gambling on there. Like maybe if like you were only allowed to lose $500 a year or like X% of your income, but we would never have that because then that would kill the whole. It's fucked up that would kill the whole business model of these companies if you were only allowed to like lose like a certain couple $100 a year per person.
Yeah. I mean, really just even if it just was, I got decoupled from sports. I mean, that's one of the reasons I've gotten more into Premier League is because you can watch a game and not be inundated with gambling content. Like you're not getting something about the line during, like the announcers are not talking about the line.
Yeah. Oh my God, I hate that.
Like you're not getting ads for DraftKings. Like, I think that is probably. I think there's big a resistance to that coming to the UK, but I think it probably will get there eventually. Because I think there's a lot of concern about Americanization of the sport, but it's so hard to watch like soccer in the morning and then watch a football game at night, and the difference in like the fan experience of watching the game when you don't gamble is wild.
Yeah. It seems like there's like we're kind of like speed running the early 1900s. I feel like again between like the Gilded Age and the 1920s, probably a good. I need to get some like historical. Does like 1910s, 1920s does that count as historical romance?
Yeah. So I think I have a broad definition. A lot of what the work that I do is I have a broad definition of historical romance. I mean, I think anything that remotely fits under the umbrella, if it's set in the past at all, I think you can count it as historical.
Isn't everything set in the past, Emma?
That's a good point. I guess you could write something that's like ambiguous, or some things are set in the future.
That's true. I'm stupid. I thought I was owning you, but no, you're right.
I mean, I think anything that like grapples with the passing of time and the transition of like an age. I think that's a lot of what I write about.
Like
and I
age.
think. Like, I think a lot about so obviously people talk about the appeal of like the Regency period a lot in historical romance. And if you're outside the genre, people point to Jane Austen and they're like, oh, these women just like reading Jane Austen and they want to read Jane Austen fan fiction over and over again. And I think that is maybe part of it. But also like the Regency period is so like, it's this period of like, it's 14 years in England's history. And it's the 14 years where Napoleon is around. It's the 14 years that before the Victorian period, which is the Industrial Revolution. It's the transition from the Enlightenment to Romanticism, and it's a period also that people like lived through. I think we think of ages often as period, like the bigger scale of things. But for the Regency period, actually the human life is what's larger than the period, and so I think that's like ripe for like analysis. But I also think it happens a lot with like 20th century periods. Like you think about like the 1960s. Like the 1960s were this like big cultural moment that we think of as like having this big impact, but also like people who were born in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s all had 60s, but all their 60s were different because based on like where they were age-wise, where they were like what like sort of economics they were participating in. Everyone had the same 60s, but also they all had different 60s. And I think that works a lot with like 20th century periods. And I think like I don't know if historical romance, like genre fiction, is interested in that, but I think you can apply a lot of what we talk about with historical romance genre fiction to movies, other novels that are set in the 20th century with sort of similar considerations.
Is it like like I was going to say this, the 70 IQ question in me is like, why do gals like historical, like Regency period so much? Is that is that true, or is that just like the stereotype of it, or is there a specific expression of that? Because I do wonder like why there has been, it seems to me from an outsider, like I'm late coming to it, but even like as I'm getting into, I don't know, I'm thinking, have you ever seen the movie The Leopard, which is like one I watched? Like,
The Leopard is one of my favorite. I hoped we were going to talk about The Leopard. The Leopard is one of my all-time. I love the novel. I've read the novel in Italian. I love the movie.
I think I maybe saw a video about it from you potentially.
Yes, I love The Leopard. It's so good. It's so good as a historical period. But I think the Risorgimento, which we talk about with one of the movies we're talking about today, is a period in Italian history that is kind of like the Regency, where it's this period of like great transition, like of cultural identity that is forming. And I think also in the Risorgimento, which like the Regency period, I think the politics of the period are very opaque for American readers, because you can't really graft like left-right politics onto it because they're happening on multiple axes at once. The Risorgimento at The Leopard there's like the left-right politics, like that's happening there between sort of like authoritarian fascism, which they reference. The novel is written post Mussolini, and so it's sort of references things. The novel is constantly, like, I think every moment is like, this is happening in the period that we're talking about, but here's like where it came from and where it's going. Like this is what's his name?
Luchino Visconti?
That's the director, but the author is he's got a long last name, like Lampedusa. He's like a count, and so he's got a double last name, Tomasi di Lampedusa.
Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa.
Yes.
11th
So
Prince of Lampedusa, 12th Duke of Palma.
So like in every paragraph, he's saying like, this is where it came from, this is where it's going. So it's like a very aware of its historical moment. And so you have like the fascism of Mussolini coming, and you also have the sort of red shirts of Garibaldi, and sort of they're sort of coded as like this communist socialist side. But also in the Risorgimento, you have the priority of, do we care about nationalism or do we care about sort of democracy? And what happens during the Risorgimento is that Garibaldi sort of sells out the democracy for the nationalism, is that he decides, this hero of Italian cultural, like what makes the Italian state, is that Garibaldi says our priority is to make Italy as a nation, because before the Risorgimento, which means like the reunification, Italy is all these different sort of principalities and the kingdom of the two Sicilies, and parts of it are in France. And they say that being a nation is more important to us than a democracy, and like the democracy will come. But instead of the democracy coming, what happens is that it makes way for populism and Mussolini. But that period, it's you read it and you're like, you don't know who. And I think if you watch the movie, you don't know who to root for. You're like, the prince is the hero, but he's also like this on his way out with the aristocracy, and Tancredi is like totally like he's just like a sycophant. Like he goes with the flow, and he's totally he's sort of the person who sells out his values. But also like in the movie, you can tell that he's the person who's going to succeed politically in the sort of new world of the Italian politics. But I think the Risorgimento has similar like rife periods. Like the Regency also like the Regency, it's very easy for, I think you could project, you're like, okay, England is good in the Napoleonic Wars. And you're like, okay, but why? Like, why is England good? Because they won. And it's like, okay, yeah, Napoleon is creating this like empire in France and subjugating all these different people. But England is doing the same thing. England just won, won the Napoleonic Wars. And so and defeating Napoleon is what allows them to become this like incredible like empire power, which I think colonialism exists before Napoleon, but then defeating Napoleon and sort of sending the continent into disarray, and England becoming the sort of the great game being between England and Russia, that only happens because Napoleon gets defeated, and like the empire as we know it in England really develops in the 19th century. So again, like it's you could read these books and you're like, okay, like Tories are bad. Like that's a position that often happens in historical romances.
Certainly
like,
in real life.
Right. Well, the characters they'll be like, the Tory is bad. And it's like, well, like the liberal character in the book, like, is not good. Like all these people are incredibly wealthy, titled people. Like there'll be a lot of books where like Disraeli is characterized as like evil and Gladstone is good. Like, okay, well, neither of these guys were great. And so it's a lot of, but I think sussing out those sort of, like, what does it mean to set up those politics and have them be understood by an American 21st century reader, or they're books that it can actually explore it with more nuance, and have characters be sort of like have more interesting politics and not flattening them. Those are the books that I'm more interested in.
Do you find that is like an appeal of them? Because like I was thinking, I guess kind of what I was wondering about is like sort of like the centralization of, like, as I understand it from an outsider's perspective, very much an outsider. Like, I've seen The Leopard, and I've seen, like, I played Regency Solitaire. I don't know if you ever played Regency Solitaire.
Oh, does this have to do with the Regency period?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
Oh my goodness. It's a game. Do you play video games at all?
No.
Okay.
I watch it happen, but like it intimidates me as an art form completely.
This is totally a game that, like, I'm actually going to shit, because this is like one of my favorite, these people, it's this husband and wife team, because I just want to shout them out every time, but they make this game called Regency Solitaire.
Okay.
And all you do, it's just
wow.
It's just solitaire, and you're like, but you get to like unlock a house, you get to like buy a mirror, and you get to like but it's like fancy solitaire. So you're playing like,
oh my god!
And there's like a story where it's like you play as, I believe, Bella.
This is like Encarta, but that's Bath. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. I've played this like multiple times. It's like you can get little things like you get a special like loot or an arrow that like you can knock off different cards, and then you're like sort of unlocking things in your room. So you unlock like a painting. You're a poor, like your family has lost a fortune. And this guy's vying for your hand.
I'm gonna play this and write about it for the newsletter. Like this is so.
This
incredible. Is also like I love a point and click. Like when you say like, do you play video games? I was like, I don't have a PlayStation, but I love a point and click game. Like Nancy Drew, and Carta. Yes. Like okay, this is up my alley. Yeah.
Uncle, do you mind if I select a few more novels from your library? Some of them are quite diverting. You know, it's just.
Oh,
it's
she's
all
a hoyden.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do that, and you're trying to get, and then there's like a bunch of levels that you like. So you're starting like from Bella's home, and you got to like go to all these places, have a romance, and then you got to like return and have like you're returning to your house like that's now glammed up, and you have a ball, and you're supposed to meet with like the nice.
Oh my god! Okay, this is definitely up my alley. I'm definitely gonna play this.
Yeah, shout out Great Alien Games. It's like this husband and wife team who they make like these weird, but they also made once you like that they just came out with Regency Solitaire 2, which I haven't played yet, but I'm gonna. But then they also do like this one's great because you're an aristocrat by day, and you're a highwaywoman by night. So it's also but it's also solitaire. So you're like
okay, this is great. That's also a plot of a romance novel. Highwaywomen abound.
Yeah,
historical romance. Yeah,
you're Lady Cornelia, and you got this nice big hair. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah, love this
is fantastic. All right, this is so the last time I've ever wanted to play a video game, it was a video game that didn't exist. But have you seen the show The Gilded Age?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a Julian Fellows production. So like Downton Abbey, but it's set in America and New York and during the Gilded Age. It's fantastic because it's filmed in New York, and so it's all like New York theater actors. So Carrie Coon, Christine Baranski's in it, and Audra McDonald. So it's like all these like powerhouses in their TV gigs so that they can be on stage. It's fantastic, but the stakes of it are so comically low. Like,
I love it.
Like, nothing happens. Like nothing happens. But then sometimes there'll be like a labor strike, and that's like big stakes. But then it will be diffused in a way that is like this is ahistorical. But the stakes, it's like this narcissism of small differences between like the people who are incredibly wealthy and the people who are just like wealthy. But it is. Like, when I watch it, I was like, I want to play like a point and click video game of the Gilded Age. Like I want to like help the servant who's inventing an alarm clock, like get the pieces for his alarm clock. Like I want to play a Nancy Drew video game of the Gilded Age. And I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to make this happen. Like this is my dream, is a Gilded Age tie-in video game. But I feel like Regency Solitaire maybe like would satisfy that impulse that I have.
You want to write one? I can code. You want to?
Okay, yeah. Make a Gilded. It's so. It's because the stakes are so like they all feel like video game stakes where you have to like solve a puzzle or like you have to discover information. There's one sort of famous episode in the Gilded Age where like the big question of the episode is like, will Christine Baranski cross the street? It's like she has to decide if she's going to cross the street, and it's fantastic. And all it's fantastically low stakes coupled with these theater actors who are like chewing scenery. Carrie Coon is delivering every line like she's about to win an Oscar. It's fantastic. And I mean, like, we should just all be so grateful we get to watch Carrie Coon wear dresses like once a week. Like it's amazing.
Absolutely. It sounds great. I'll add it to the list of shows that I need to catch up on and watch.
The Gilded Age. I'm obsessed.
Well, so I was wondering, so stuff like that, I guess like it's the, my general question is like, if I could, again, be 70 IQ and gender, it's, why do y'all like this shit so much? That would be, like, the dude question of, like, that's, like, but I'm curious about, like, the escape, like, is it, you mentioned something interesting about, like, you can't really tie, left-right politics to it. You also just said, something about, like, the stakes are so low, like, as, like, it being at least appealing in that show. So I'm curious about, like, I don't know, is there like a common thing in your sort of historical romance travels that you hear from either the way you feel or that you hear from like your fans of like, or that you just have a theory on of like why, I guess like this sort of that sort of limited period of like I can't remember the Italian name you talked about with the
Risorgimento.
The Risorgimento seemed very like similar. Maybe this is just again for me because they're all I can't I'm not too good at like telling different periods of fashion or whatever. But between like the Regency or like Risorgimento, it seems like most of what I see from a lot of historical romance, like from the outside, is like, well, it's this. Like when I think of like, you know, I can't remember. You ever watch The Thick of It or In the Loop? Yeah. I think Malcolm on that show says like it's, you know, something like, you know, we're not in a fucking Regency costume drama or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. So I'm curious, like, why is that?
Yeah.
Do you have a theory?
There is definitely a narrowness to historical romance that I think is getting worse as the time passes, and I think this has to do. I think like right now, what is being published is a lot of very, very narrow historical romance, and there's always this question of like, well, is historical romance dying? Like what's going on? But I think I have issues with the way the genre is going right now. But my great appeal to it, like the appeal of romance in general, I think, is that I like watching like reading the books, but watching, this is true of also a lot of movies that I love. I like watching people negotiate language. And I think that is what the key of romance is. I think sometimes people characterize it as escapism, but I think that is ultimately unfair to the reader. I think a lot of people assume that like romances are like self-insert fantasies, but I mean,
it's Mary Sue, right? Is a classic thing of that,
right?
Like,
yeah,
I
think you could write a self-insert. I think you can write a romance that appeals to like self-insertion, but I find myself like identifying with the heroes as often as I find myself identifying with the heroines. Like I don't think that is true of everyone. I think some readers are like that, but I think that is painting with broad strokes. At least the appeal for me is romances are so often about people like communicating with each other, and that's the central conflict. And I just think that is like the most like human conflict is like we are communicating with each other. I was an English major. I love semiotics and considering like how does structure of language work. And I think that happens a lot in historical romance where you have these miscommunications that are class divides. Like I think you get a lot of class divides in historical romance that are sort of negotiations of like, what am I saying to you? And like, what is the meaning of what I'm saying to you? But also, how are you interpreting it? And sometimes people complain about miscommunication in historical romance or in romance in general. They say that that's like, they're like, it's boring. Or like they say like, why don't these two characters just have a conversation? It's like, well, like, I just think about like times in any sort of relationship in my life, romantic or platonic or familial, like when did we have a problem? It often was because we were not communicating correctly. We were not understanding each other. And so it's like, yeah, like maybe those conflicts could be solved with just a conversation, but also sometimes you have a conversation and your problem's not solved because you're still miscommunicating. And that sort of consideration and like deep like value of like looking at different people communicating is what I love about romance. And then in the historical period, I think, I mean, I love historical fiction. I mean, this is like, I'm trying to think of the theorist about it who wrote about historical fiction. He's like a Marxist. Now I'm trying to remember his name.
Karl Marx.
Brandon Taylor writes about him all the time, and I love Brandon Taylor. I cannot remember his name. But I guess there are these theories about historical fiction being like ultimately a conservative genre. Is it because you're looking backwards, you're sort of having this nostalgia for this period.
That seems silly.
I don't know. I think parts of it can be true that like you're looking backwards, but I think like so. What my big book last year that I read that I spent like a year with was War and Peace, and like I think Leo Tolstoy, when he wrote War and Peace, was doing that. He was having this like conservative looking backwards at this period and sort of this nostalgia. But a lot of War and Peace is about like what do we do with history? What do we consider? But I think the Marxist guy that I'm thinking about who looks at this, he says like yes, this is true, but also it is a vector for critique of conservatism, even if it's coming from a place of nostalgia, where and I think that's what I love about a good historical romance. And I think this is what is maybe being lost in a lot of new historical romance publications, is that because of the romance aspect of it and this assumption that readers want to read characters that they would want to date, they don't like they pull punches on like what the characters are willing to do. Like I love reading historical romance where like the Duke who's a hero is evil. I'm like, yeah, because like a Duke is evil. Like I am of the class position that like an aristocrat who has bunches of wealth and is a landlord is evil.
It's kind of fundamentally evil.
Right. Like, and so like I want to read a book where that person has to grapple with the fact that they are evil. Or I mean, I read a lot of books where like the older series where that person is violent. And like that doesn't make it not a romance to me. It just makes it more honest about like what what the stakes are for like these class differences. So yeah, I've kind of rambled with like what historical romance means to me, but I do love it.
No, it's interesting because I have I've been watching like I guess from a movie perspective, watching more and more, especially like ones in the 30s and 40s, because so many of those were so many of like the melodramas that I love are end up being historical romances of some kind, or historical dramas, or even like now they feel like, even if they were contemporary to the 30s, 40s, 50s, they feel historical in a way now,
right?
In like, just because obviously we're 70, 80, 90 years past that. I guess my I don't know, I have my weird theory on it is like, it has, I think, something to do with like the gendered expectations of men and women, at least in our society, as a modern expression of like, I think I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been considering just how on the spectrum I am, and like it seems like the like it feels like it if I was a woman it would be a lot harder just in life generally, surely, right? I mean that's patently true, but like in terms of like, if thinking about like sort of my experiences, like I now thinking back, like, oh man, I really have had a hard time my whole life kind of understanding how people think and feel, and like, communication, and being frustrated by the vagaries of that. And I was like, well, I thought that's just human. I mean, in to your question, human. But I'm curious almost like now if it's like a thing with the historical, it's almost like maybe it's a sports like it's almost like a sports thing of some kind for AFAB people in our society, that like they might get to sort of like, it's almost like heightened social figuring out in these historical romance novels in like a way that like maybe you don't necessarily get to express it much, because if like one of the sort of defining things of like femininity is sort of maybe being more socially aware, or like whatever in modern society that's kind of put upon women, it seems like there's so much in these historical romance novels where you kind of get to like you get to sort of like think about, not like in a self-insert way, but it's like you get to see people sort of acting out these very complex social situations of like, ooh, did they make the right step? Like, oh, she lowered her fan in the third, and then she turned away or something. It's like, oh, that means this other lady's a bitch or something. It's like, it's almost like viewing it as like a sports movie has kind of helped me get into them a little bit, where it's just like, oh, they're battling.
They're like plays. There's like, oh, and what and like I mean, I do think, I mean, as far as like autistic characters in literature, I don't know if there's a rake in historical romance who's not on the spectrum. Like that is
what is a rake?
A rake. Oh my god. A
is
rake.
That like a rogue?
A rogue. So a rake. Okay. So the term comes from rake hell, as in to rake hell.
Yeah.
So it's like there are no devils because they're all here. There are no devils in hell because they're all here, because they're all seducing our daughters and wives. So a rake is
You drive. I was listening to S Town again last night, and it just, you're bringing me back to the South. Just with like,
So a rake is a stock character.
So does it mean the same thing as when my high school friends went going to a very rural Tennessee high school, be like, raise hell, just like when they would. Okay.
Yeah. So a rake it's a stock character from Georgian comedy. So Georgian comedy is pre-Regency. So more in the early 1700s.
Not the state that you're from, and not the country, but the like kingly.
The period. Yeah.
The kingly period.
The King George 1 through 3. So Georgian comedy, a rake is a character. There were these plays, kind of like Commedia dell'arte from Italy.
Okay. Where
there were like stock characters. And so a rake was a stock character of like the guy who would come in, he drinks a lot, he seduces women. Sometimes they're reformed by the end of the play or the book, which is where we get our name, Reformed Rakes. People from the South often ask, they're like, does this have to do with Christianity? And I was like, oh yeah, I see that. I was like, I know what you're talking about. But no, a Reformed Rake is someone who has redeemed themselves. Okay. And there's this aphorism that comes from, I think, Samuel Johnson or the other one. I can't remember. There's an author, so he writes it in the preface of, it's either Clarissa or Pamela. But in the preface he writes, he sort of negs this phrase, Reformed Rakes make the best husbands. He says like, women don't listen to this. Rakes are bad. Rakes don't reform. And this is like the moral. But the phrase Reformed Rakes make the best husband.
Was he like peacocking while he was writing this? He had the big, like you're saying, negging, right. Like he was like, having the big.
Right.
I guess they were, right? All those guys were peacocking.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But Reformed Rakes Make the Best Husbands has made its way now into historical romance. Violet Bridgerton says it in Bridgerton. And it's this idea that, like, the guy that you want to marry is someone who's, like, he sowed his oats and now he's coming home to roost.
Okay.
But a Reformed Rake is someone who's redeemed themselves, or like a rake gets reformed by marriage. That's sort of a key thing in historical romance. And so, a rake is just a type of, and I used the word hoyden earlier. That's another stock character. A hoyden is a boisterous young woman.
Okay. How do you spell that? H-O-Y?
Hoydn. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, if anyone's on ironic boat and tote TikTok, that's my boat and tote is hoyden.
What is boat and tote?
So boat and tote is a bag from LLB, and you probably have seen these before. They're canvas bags that are like in bright colors with a canvas, like a handle that's like made out of canvas. But LLB, they make these boat and totes. But a couple years ago, the idea of like getting, like, usually get your initials or your name on it. But a couple years ago, this TikToker Gracie Wiener was like, actually, I like to get like
that's not her real name.
That's her name.
Okay. Cool. Sick.
She was like, I like to get like a phrase on it, a word on it instead of my initials. And so mine says hoyden. My sister has one that says like howdy. And you can get like silly words on them. You can anything that's under like 9 characters. And so mine says hoyden.
Okay. That's great. I think I might have had one of those.
Probably. They're kind of ubiquitous. But most people get their initials on them.
When I was coming out in high school, like when Obama was in the primary in 2008, I remember I got a bag that said Barack and roll. I like had like a little thing.
So you were on the original. You were on the cusp of the trend with ironic boat and totes. I just had my name on it in high school.
Okay.
Like it just said Emma.
This feels like a real cultural exchange. You're talking about rakes and hoydens and all this, like, you know, the Recon. Like, I was about to say the Reconquista. I already forgot the name. The
Risorgimento.
That's the one. Yeah. And the only thing that's it's going through my head is just like Gracie Wiener.
That's her name.
Yeah. No, I know.
Lots of people have the same Wiener. The only
you
other
can
one
take the dumb straight dude out of the South, but you can't take the
I mean, Anthony Weiner is the other one who's like nominal determinism going on.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's true of Gracie. I think she's very nice and she has great fashion taste.
Yeah, we're not alleging anything other than something related to boat and totes.
Yep.
That is a cool name, though. I love that name. Yeah, that is. Damn. Now I had another question about it, but now I'm looking at my notes of like, okay, I got to look up what a rake is, what a hoyden is, what a boat and tote is. Got to get another boat and tote. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. You know what? The thing I was going to say was there was a definition. I think I talked about it in one of my videos that this lady said on the special features for the movie Written on the Wind, which I love, the Douglas Sirk movie. Yeah. Highly recommend if you're listening to this because you like Emma's channel, you're coming from her side. First of all, thank you. But second of all, check out my channel for a bunch of like melodrama. I guess they'd now be historical kind of romances, but Written on the Wind particularly. No,
I will say technically historical romance is not written in a contemporary period. So like Jane Austen did not write historical romance.
Okay, well.
Yeah, so technically, like it would
what
just be romance.
Okay, just romances.
Yeah, or melodrama, yeah.
Romances that are now historical, I guess. Yes. That now feel historical. Yeah. Vibe-wise? I guess a vibe historical romance?
Like historically, vibey historically.
Yeah, okay. On a vibe basis, yeah. But they, the special, I can't remember this lady's name, but she is Professor, I think it's Dr. White. I think it's Pat White. But she does like film scholarship, and she had mentioned something about the way to interpret like melodramas completely like changed my life, this interpretation of it. But she was, and because it makes them make sense, but like the emotional violence is always more important than the physical violence. So like even when someone dies at the end, like thinking of the movie, if you like sort of indirect language, Deception with Claude Rains and Paul Henreid and Bette Davis is a tremendous movie. Because every word of dialogue in there is they're saying something different. Like that's kind of the gimmick of the movie is deception. It's like everything is like different than what they're actually saying. But Claude Rains, not to spoil it, but someone has violence done to them at the end. But like it's not nearly as important in the story as like he still wins, even though he gets shot. He like because he has sort of won the emotional battle of like tempting Bette Davis's husband into like being kind of like like she knows what would have happened, and I think she's going to end up going to jail. So,
yeah,
is that true also in historical? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking about like violence and historical romance, which it definitely has. It's out. Like there are very few romance novels that have like explicit violence, especially between a couple nowadays. It sort of manifests in other subgenres now. But these older books that have violence in them, a lot of people I think get put off in them. Because, and understandably, we're of the position on the podcast. I'm this way in my writing. I was like, no one has to read a book that has sexual violence in it. Like I don't think you have to in order to be a good historical romance reader.
No.
But I think sometimes the way that people talk about it is very dismissive of like what is actually happening structurally with the violence in these books. That the violence that because the term is bodice stripper is what these books are called when they that's the name.
That's so cool.
Yeah, a bodice stripper is a historical romance that starts. It doesn't actually start. It has sexual violence in it between the main couple, the couple who will get there happily ever after. Bodice stripper. Which was it's funny because it was originally a derogatory term. It originates as sort of dismissive of these books and has been reclaimed by people who read
bodice. Yeah.
So a bodice stripper. I think when we sort of wholesale remove these books from the conversation, it's hard to talk about like structurally what is happening. Like what does it mean when someone assaults someone else? Like what is happening structurally? It's a metaphor a lot of the times. It's a metaphor like for violence that we do to each other in relationships. And also sometimes it's a political metaphor, especially in these cross-class romances.
Yeah.
Like there's this extremely notorious bodice stripper, Stormfire, that is probably the most violent book that I've ever read. Like, it's often talked about in terms like that was similar to Sallow, the movie, where like people. It's
literally was on my mind when just it's
conflation
of class and sexual violence.
They like list what happens in it, and there's like this litany of like violent acts. Like this book is disgusting because these things happen in it. But like Sallow, it is a political metaphor. It is set during it's set during this moment of Irish attempted liberation where Ireland is collaborating with France and Napoleon to try and invade through England and basically free Ireland. But then things go wrong. But the characters in the book are directly involved in that. And the hero is Irish, and he's lost his childhood village has been burnt by an English. I don't remember his title. He's like a magistrate. He's responsible for this burning of a village in Ireland. And as revenge, the book opens with the Irish hero kidnapping the magistrate's daughter. And he does sexual violence to her. But it's in this context of this like political violence that's much broader. And so it's like, yes, the book is very hard to read in terms of the sexual violence that happens. But people only ever talk about the sexual violence and not the political context that's going on. Also, the author, Christine Monson, wrote it in 1984, so like right in the middle of the Troubles. So it's like this is so obviously a book about politics, like Sallow, which it's like when you list what happens in Sallow, you're like you miss the fact that it's about fascism. And like and not in uncertain terms. Like the metaphor is not hard to understand with Sallow. And so I just think not every bodice stripper is like that. Not every bodice stripper is so explicit in its like politics. But when you dismiss them wholesale, you miss things where like very interesting things are happening with what's happening with the sexual assault. And at Reformed Rakes, we take bodice strippers like very seriously. We do a lot of episodes about them. Almost like we try to do them so that people who want to have a conversation about them but don't actually want to read the books because for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable reading books with sexual assault. We like make these episodes. Like we did an episode on Stormfire. We did an episode on another very violent book, The Silver Devil. And just because these books are part of the sort of genre fiction history, like the genre fiction sort of starts in 1972. There are precedents for it, but 1972 is the date that's the first historical romance novel with on-page sex. That's the distinction. Before then, there are historical romances that don't have sex on them, but that just has to do with censorship laws in the United States that have changed in the late 1960s.
In those old, like
not sometimes, not necessarily. It's a much more like. There's sometimes the implications that the heroine is not a virgin, and they're definitely rakes, and it's clear that the rake is having sex.
Interesting. That's much later than movies, even like that sort of fell off. That's interesting.
Yes, and this is coming from sort of the category fiction. There was an author, Georgette Hare, who definitely wrote. She wrote very explicitly what she was trying to write. Was she was like, I'm trying to write in the mode of Jane Austen. She doesn't necessarily, but this is her stated goal. She's much more interested in the aristocracy than Jane Austen ever was. But she writes these sort of romances that are much more conservative. And she actually is someone who creates the image of Regency romance in historical romance much more than Jane Austen does. Like a lot of Regency books now will have dukes in them. Jane Austen never wrote a duke character. That doesn't exist in her world. So the precedent is actually Georgette Hare. And Georgette Hare also projects a very Victorian moralism on the Regency period. The Regency period actually is much more like liberal than the Victorian period, but we have a sense that it's a very conservative because of Georgette Hare and this creation of the Regency period. Like I always point out, like in Emma, have you seen Emma or read Emma by Jane Austen? No. So in Emma, which is one of my favorite books, there's a scene where Emma Woodhouse, the heroine, takes a carriage ride with a man who proposes to her, and she rejects the proposal. She's the only person in the carriage with him. So many historical readers, if they read that happen in a Regency book, they would lose their shit. They would say, this is so unrealistic. She would be ruined if this happened. It's like Jane Austen is writing in the Regency period, and Emma Woodhouse does not get ruined. People know she's in the carriage with Mr. Elton, and she's fine. Like it's just that we have these like restrictions that we put on this period. And I mean, we talk about this a lot on the podcast too, where like people get very upset with non-virgin heroines, and it's like people were having sex. People have always been having sex. And like we see this in one of the movies we talk about today, like the relationship with Mr. Turner and his widow who he has children with. Like they never get married. Like this happened. People had out of wedlock children and supported them or didn't support them. This is just a human thing. And the woman's not ruined. She's not like ostracized. Her children get married. The stakes are different, and like certainly people were ruined for certain circumstances, but what does ruined mean? Like, to mean you just couldn't get married? There's also in Jane Austen, not a heroine but a secondary character has an affair and her marriage gets annulled, and she can't marry again, but she's not like cast out on the street. Which, again, some historical readers would think, like, that has to happen if that happened in a romance novel. So.
Like Anna Karenina, right? I think I did that for earlier pod.
And it's like the breadth of consequences is large for lots of different actions. A lot of it depends on, like, your class position, your family position. Like, how much, ultimately, a lot of it what comes down to is how much money do you have? Like, can you support yourself if you don't get married? Is your family powerful enough to keep something a secret, both for things that actually would be ruinous or things like, but also some of the things that historical romance cast as ruinous just are like men and women took carriages together. It's fine. Like it happened.
Is that like part of the appeal? Like the sort of that there's not like explicit sex. Like generally, has that historically been part of the appeal? I've heard that from some friends or something.
So
that, like,
I do think some readers seek that. I am very like take it or leave it. Like I read books that have like very explicit sex scenes in them and other ones don't. I'm much more interested in things being sexy than there being sex scenes. But I also am very...
Is that what you see in the culture surrounding historical romance of just like, is there a war between people who are like never sex or, you know?
Yes. But I'm very, this is maybe my more lawyer side. I'm very like black and white when it comes to like censorship and restrictions on things and how people talk about censorship, where I'm like, you're never going to get me on the side of like there should be less sex in things. Like I'm like, because I'm never going to be someone who's saying like, oh, like maybe that's too much, because as both a librarian and a lawyer, I see how that when you have a line, that line is going to be applied harsher on people that like I want to protect, like queer stories, people of color that are hypersexualized. Like this is, so I'm very strict about that. Where like, there are some books that I'm like, I don't actually want to read that. Like I don't read a lot of historical erotica, which is sort of its own subgenre.
Yeah, that's become huge lately, right? In the last like 5-10 years.
Yeah.
We're in a smut renaissance.
Yeah, and so so when people are like, they talk about like unnecessary sex scenes, which has totally a film discourse too. People do that with film all the time. It happens in historical romance or just romance in general. They're like, oh, they didn't need to have sex scenes for it to be appealing. I was like, well, like maybe that author couldn't write good sex scenes. Like maybe it's a skill issue.
Well, I think there's like a thing, like, I think movies are better when they have sex scenes generally, because it's a sign of, like, it's the whole thing. I remember taking a class on dogs in college, and it's like whenever you domesticate like a canid, they get floppy ears. Like, there's something, like, when you breed for domesticity. Weirdly.
I'm so excited to see how this turns to sex scenes. I'm like, I want to know how they connect.
Yeah, that's I think it'll be a good. Hopefully, it'll be a good metaphor. But, like, there's like a long running experiment, I believe, in Russia, where they've been like trying to domesticate foxes for like 60, 70 years, like just taking the ones that are like friendly and just breeding, and they've noticed that, like, the foxes get floppy ears the more domesticated they are. So, like, it's like a thing that, like, with canids or like dogs and foxes, where, like, the more you domesticate an animal, the floppier the ears tend to get for whatever reason. Right. It's like a gene that's associated with domesticity, I guess. So the thing with sex scenes is that I feel like if there's a well-written sex scene, or particularly if there's like a kink one, or if there's like something that you can tell that the director is really into, generally the movie's quality scales better, like scales with it. It's like a linear relationship that I've noticed. It feels like, and Tarantino's a classic example. The more he gets to put feet in his movies, it's like probably the better the movie is, because, like, he's just so interested in it. He's
invested, yeah.
And if he cares that much about feet, then he cares that much about, like, writing or cinematography or this other thing. So I always love, just for that reason, it's a sign of like, people should be horny for, like, both, like, cinematography and whatever they're horny for.
Yeah, again, like, skill issue. Like, it's this, like, and, like, in sex scenes, like, I mean, they're definitely, like, books that I've read where, like, the sex scenes, I'm like, I get bored during them. I'm like, there's, like, too many sex scenes. They're like, it's like, okay, we're having sex again. Like, you don't have to tell me. Like, I believe that they're continuing to have sex. I don't need to have, like, every time they have sex.
Have you seen Crash by Cronenberg?
No, but this is one of my co-host favorite movies, and it's playing in theaters near me soon, so I'm probably going to see it in theaters.
Oh, please. It's basically a porn, but
yeah. And I mean, but I think like going back to the communication thing, like in romance, like the sex scene should tell us something about like how the couple is communicating with each other. Like that's what I learned in those moments.
The story.
It should do something. But also, like, sex is a part of these relationships. So, like, you shouldn't exclude it either. But also, I like when things are hot in these books. Like, but a lot of the things that I think are the most hot are not actually the sex scenes, but I think often the authors who can write hot scenes that are not sex scenes often are also interested in writing sex. But one of my favorite authors, Anne Mallory, she doesn't write historical romance anymore. She's gone on to like YA fantasy, which happens a lot, is that people abandon historical romance after like 9 books. But she writes the books that I've read that are the hottest, that have the least to do with bodies. And I'm so interested in like how she pulls it off. Like there's one of my favorite books by her. I read it like 4 or 5 times before I realized like I had no idea what the heroine looked like. Like I had no sense of like what her body shape was. I don't think I even knew her hair color. Like I think there was a cover picture, so I like had a sense of what her hair color was. But it still was like such an intimate book, and I think a lot of it has to come to do with how she wrote conversation. But that's an example of someone who there are sex scenes in the book, but they're not particularly explicit. And some of her later books are what we call closed door, where like you don't get the sex scene. But I think it's like she compensates for this lack of sex scene in other places with the communication and the intimacy. And so, like, I didn't notice that it was closed door. Sometimes I read a book and I'm like, oh, this is closed door. Like, it's just, you're not interested in the things that I'm interested in. Both the lack of sex and also the other parts suffer. So I see what you're talking about, where, like, a director who will go for sex scenes, it's like you're interested in other things.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it is. That's probably a good transition so the movie. So you picked Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Why'd you pick Mr. Turner?
So I love Mike Leigh.
Okay. This is my first Mike Leigh movie.
I can't believe that. He's so good.
My brother loves him. Yeah.
He's probably my favorite living director. Okay. Everything that I've seen from him, I love. Like, and so last year I had like a Mike Leigh summer. Like I just like devoured a bunch of his movies.
Nice.
And Mr. Turner is the one that is like the most like mine. Like I think Topsy Turvy is maybe his best movie, which is about Gilbert and Sullivan. Okay. It's the most like Mike Leigh movie to me, where he's very interested in collaboration and like community process, and so like the filming of like a people putting on a show, like he's able to get a lot of his like socialism politics in there in surprising ways. But this movie is I mean I was an art history major in college. I love visual art. I love this period. I love this Regency, Georgian, Victorian period a lot, obviously. I love Timothy Spall. I think this is like my best actor performance. Like I would put it up there with like Malcolm X, Denzel Washington. Those are like maybe 1 and 2 for like
he's
favorite
Peter
performances.
Pettigrew, right?
Yes,
that's like his famous, yeah.
And he's in this. So Mike Leigh uses a lot of the same actors over and over again because Mike Leigh's method of directing movies is very specific. And it's a lot of research and a lot of improv, especially when he's doing these historical pieces. So he tends to use the same actors over and over again. And Timothy Spall is in quite a few of his movies. And it captures what I love about the historical period, the historical fiction so much. Like I was talking about with the life, like this. So it's 25 years of J.M.W. Turner's life, and it's 25 years that transition from the Regency period to the Victorian period. J.M.W. Turner was a peer with Jane Austen. Jane Austen and he were born in almost the same year. He lived much longer than Jane Austen. So again, sort of captures that period that I love. And it's just stunning. Like Dick Pope is a cinematographer, longtime collaborator with Mike Leigh, who just passed away, I think, last year.
Yeah. Another great name.
Yes. Yes. And Mike Leigh, I think, is maybe best known for his like slice of life British films. Like Naked is maybe his most famous film, which is another Harry Potter alum, David Thewlis.
Remus Lupin, shout out.
Yes.
Also Big Lebowski.
Yes. Post Thatcher England, and so it's like post austerity, this conservatism, like this like fallout of the conservative period, this like disillusioned young man. It's a very violent film that like I have trouble watching how violent it is, but it's maybe his most famous film. And these other like Secrets and Lies. So he does a lot of like working class slice of life pictures. And so when I watch Secrets and Lies and Mr. Turner, it's hard. I think if you just watch one of his slice of life movies and one of his period movies, you'd be hard pressed to understand like that they're the same director. Like they feel so different. But the way that Mike Leigh talks about making his films, he's like, I don't have a different approach to the historical films. It's like, I want these people to totally embody their characters, whether they were playing people from real life or they're playing a character that I've invented. And so there's a lot of research that goes into it. And I think if you read anything about J.M.W. Turner or Gilbert and Sullivan from Topsy Turvy, like you'll be astonished, but like what gets invoked in these movies that like is unaddressed by the film. It's just these like little moments that are totally like, he just is so interested in the veracity of these like real life people that it's just astounding. And so that is like a skill, like watching him make this movie, like watching the product of that movie is fascinating to me. So lots of things that I love about Mr. Turner.
Yeah. I couldn't, for the first bit of, and honestly still, I couldn't tell if you were, if you had like a camera in my house. I guess for most of the movie, because if you ever want to know the experience, I've been telling people it's like my living situation is like the Wild Bunch, because it's like live with two brothers and this other dude, so it's like kind of these four like kind of outcasts that no one else will take, sort of living together. It's like the romance of the Wild Bunch is nice. But it's like now I can say it's that, but if everyone was Mr. Turner, because it's just like we're all just going around just grunting, just
grunting. The grunts are so. I want a supercut of the grunts in this film. Like it's so funny. And that's the other thing. I think a period piece that is funny is something that I love, because I think people have the tendency to do like highfalutin, like received pronunciation. I love when people keep their accents or have like accurate accents. Like the Mr. Turner speaks like a working class, and this is the thing about J.M.W. Turner. He purposely kept his accent even when he joined the Royal Academy. There are reports of this.
He's spitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's dirty.
And people talk about this. Like all the artists talk about this. So I love that. Like that intimacy and the humor that comes with it. Like Mr. Turner is a funny character. He's funny to watch. His maid Hannah Danby is funny. Dorothy Atkinson is my goat of Mike Leigh collaborators. She's so good in every film, and she often appears in these like one scene at a time or a handful of scenes, and she always is like a delight in all of the films. Yeah.
Oh, we really loved it. It was like watching. So I watched it with my my brother and my friend, the two other dudes who live here, and it was like it was the consensus was like it was watching a Mirror in our house, just because it was like it could be like literally the morning that we watched it the other day. It was just like there was a guy, this like poor, I think he was like selling pest stump or something, but he was like he knocked on the door, and I was just getting out of bed, and Like, so I just sort of went to the door with just like my hair everywhere and like just not, not having anything, and just went, what do you want? What do you want? He's is there a Mr. like the family of the name that used to live here? I was like, they don't live here. He's like, and rather than like continue, he's just like, I'm just gonna. He's like, well, thank you. I'll just go out, and I go past my brother's room, and he just has a mouthful of cereal, just headphones on, not even listening to the door. It's yeah, it was really something. I did like. I will say it's something that I really like in these type of historical ones where not everyone was pretty in any way. It is like it's nice to see that, like, I think it was his housekeeper, his housekeeper had like, was it psoriasis or something or something?
That's one of those things where it's like, like the movie never addresses it. Like it doesn't. No one like gives her a cream or is like, what's going on with your face, Hannah? Yeah. Like it just is like a thing about a character, and so it seems like, and there's so many things like that with his historical films where it's like, this is true. This is something that he read, and he's like, okay, I read it. It happened. It's going to be in the movie. And it's just, and it gets worse throughout her life as time passes, and it really affects like how she moves and how she interacts. And it's just one of those like details that it just is so Mike Leigh.
Yeah, it was like this. So I picked to pair with it because I had looked on Mike Leigh's list. We did the Tree of Wood and Clogs. So I think this ended up being about 5.5 hours around of
they were
no
two
plot.
long movies.
Yeah, no plot, just kind of people
really
walking
nothing
around.
Happens.
Yeah, nothing happens. Yes, if you want to watch 5.5 hours of nothing happens, that are really good. I really enjoyed both movies.
So I watched the Tree of Wood and Clogs first when I for to pair them together, and then I was like, oh yeah, I kind of also picked like a plotless movie. Like nothing happens.
Yeah,
there's
great.
no arc. Like he doesn't learn anything. He doesn't go anywhere.
No,
it's just like
he doesn't even understand half the things. Like he's in like a fucking dissociative daze. We just kept laughing because that's like us half the day in my house of just like.
And Mike Leigh, he's been very clear that he's like, this is not a biopic. He's like, it's a movie about a man working. It purposely also covers like the last 25 years of his life. I think Mike Leigh is both interested in that as a period of like production from Turner. Like he does the I can't remember the name of the picture at the exhibition with the buoy. That's now I think in the National Gallery, and the Fighting to Mare, which is also in the National Gallery. A lot of his stuff's at the Tate. But what he's producing at the time is also like is the more interesting stuff in Turner's career. It's as he moves away from the academy and sort of the restriction of like what's going on as he's like sort of losing his mind and losing his eyesight. Like his art gets more interesting, and is actually the stuff that like is most impactful in art history sense. And so it's that Mike Leigh chooses this period. Like we don't start with Turner as a young boy. It really the precipitating event is we see the importance of his father, and then we see his father die, and that's like what sort of is the only thing that happens. Really, is like that's what changes everything for Turner.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's interesting. He doesn't. I didn't know that he doesn't call it a biopic, because it felt like a very good biopic to me. Because like it's like I felt like I got a really good, just by watching this guy for 2.5 hours. I felt like I got. I mean, at least I got a sense of who at least the director was asserting that he was, and maybe who he was. But I kind of like that, I guess, more than. I haven't seen a ton of these movies because I feel like I've seen one of them. I've seen all of them, but there's like the Bruce Springsteen movie coming out. There's like the Bob Dylan movie that came out. There's like the Queen movie that came out. There's the Elton John movie that came out. They seem all very similar.
Have you seen Better Man, the Robbie Williams one?
That's the monkey one, right?
Yes.
No, I have not.
I am a Better Man evangelical. Okay. It rises above. It's a head and shoulders above all this like biopic schlop that we're getting. The monkey works so well. Like like I can't. And everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say this, but everyone I know who's seen it is like the monkey works really well. Also as like a dancing forward musical fan, incredible choreography. The music is great. I'm like now a Robbie Williams super fan. Okay. I should have watched it. Yeah. I am endorsing Better Man. I think it was in theaters for like 2 weeks, so it did not do well here.
I didn't know who he was. I was surprised it was, no one knows. I only
knew who he was because he performed with One Direction, and I'm a Directioner. Okay. But he also, it's it's obvious why he didn't hit here, because like America had rap music in the 90s. Like we didn't need Robbie Williams doing whatever he was doing. I totally understand why he didn't hit here. However, he also, like, as far as like neurodivergence goes, like this is a movie about a man who is so ADHD and has to write music about it. And he also has like learning disabilities, and he's also involved. So Robbie Williams was involved in the production of the film. But unlike the Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a Queen members were involved in and just like totally laundered their image, Robbie Williams is like, yeah, I was an asshole. And like, I was a drug addict. I was not good to people around me. He comes off as like not a great guy, but you're so fascinated by his story. And the reason that, like, the choices of him being a monkey, it makes total sense in the film. Like, I've honestly compared it to Gene Dealman, like, as far as like, because like the slow cinema, like the slow
I haven't
cinema.
Seen that, but that's, yeah.
So Gene Dealman, it's like, I think it's like 3.5 hours long, 4 hours long.
Yeah.
But it's
very true.
Gene Dealman. It's about a housewife, and who's also a sex worker, and it's like 3 days in her life, and she has the same routine, like, over and over again. And so it's really, so the first day you're watching it, you're like, this is very dull. And a lot of it happens in real time. But then the second day happens, and her routine slightly changes. And by the time, now you're like an hour and a half into the movie, and you're like, oh my God, like this is now like the shape of my brain has changed to accept the stakes of this movie. So when something slightly happens, you're like, oh my God. And then the third day, something big happens. And so the feeling of it, your brain has scaled differently. And so it's like the most arresting thing ever in a film. But you have to get through this whole thing. But your brain shapes with the movie. It feels like watching a symphony where, like, your brain
takes... This is the same
takes...
as the monkey.
But so the monkey, it's like the first 5 minutes, you're like, the monkey... It's a monkey. But then you're like, you accept that this monkey is Robbie Williams very quickly. Okay. But then they'll do something where, like, the CGI of the monkey, like, they couldn't have reasonably done with an actor. Like, there'll be sort of like a dream sequence or like a something like visual that like would have looked absurd with a human doing it. But because it's already CGI, you kind of like accept the grammar of the visuals, and so then it's like stunning. So I think I may be the only person who's like, Better Man is like Gene Dealman, but this is my pitch to film people. I was like, it works. So as far as biopics go, Better Man. Yeah, there you go.
That sounds great. Yeah. I need to. I don't get to see movies. I just always forget to see movies in theaters because, like, I just have a lot of movies at home. So I remember seeing it, I was like, this looks weird. I should probably watch it. But then I just never. And then it was already out of theaters by the time. Yeah. Like, by the time I saw the stuff going around, like, Twitter and stuff of, like, oh, my God, what is this? You know, I was like... Yeah. Yeah.
Had
I known it was Gene Dealman, then I would have,
And also, connected to Mike Leigh, so she's not in Mr. Turner, but Mike Leigh stalwart, Alison Steadman, who is his ex-wife, that I think they still have a good working relationship. She is Robbie Williams' grandmother in it. Okay. So Mike Leigh connection, Alison Steadman, that's what she's up to.
Do you find that sort of stake setting, it's in light of the, we talked about sort of like in the historical romance stuff, like the subtleties of communication between people. Like, is that sort of the same thing that happens as you're reading a book where it's like, okay, I just need to, like, rewire that, like, oh, if she gets into the carriage, then she's a total whore or something. Like, you just sort of, like, rewire it? Do you do that when you're reading a book?
I mean, I don't know if it happens with each individual book. I do think as someone who reads mostly historical romance, like, I sort of have that grammar. And this is one of the things I like about historical romance. I really don't like exposition world building in books. Like, this is why I've never read fantasy. Like, there's nothing I hate more than when a character comes to explain something. I cannot handle a guide like coming to like deal with a Mary Sue and be like, this is the magic system. I'm like, I don't care. So I like that in historical romance that I can sort of be dropped in and like the stakes. I understand the stakes. Like, if I'm in the Regency period, I know what's going on. If you set me in the medieval period, I'm like, okay, I know that there's sort of genre conventions. Like, obviously not every medieval romance in real life dealt with like warring factions, but like if you send me to a medieval romance, I'm expecting there's going to be a war in it. If you send me to a Tudor one, there's going to be like court intrigue. So I like that, and I think that's just the genre fiction thing more than anything unique to romance, is that like when something gets sort of iterative and like cumulative in like your appreciation of it, that you're like, okay, like these things all connect to each other. Like, I'm not just reading this book, I'm reading this book with the 1,000 historical romances that I've read in mind when I read it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like seeing
jazz music is like that, right? Like, you're not just listening to like Charlie Parker, you're listening to Charlie Parker knowing about like Thelonious Monk. Like all these things are together in like the performance and the context.
Well, movie stars are like that too.
Yeah,
I mean,
movie stars. And I think that's a lot of like how I watch movies. I think I'm a very star forward person.
Classic, I like that.
Yeah. The star system is like I'm like an MGM bitch. Like I Creed unit. That's entertainment. Like that is like my stuff. Like MGM, Columbia, RKO is my stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, we I was thinking about that. I have it on my list to make a video of the pod that recorded a couple weeks ago. I don't know when it'll be coming out when you're listening to this, but they did on the Hanging Tree. Gary Cooper has like a super good. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying I love Gary Cooper and the Hanging Tree. Like.
Oh yeah, you've seen the Hanging Tree.
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of actors that I love. I've seen a lot of their I'll watch a movie just for an actor, like especially in old Hollywood. Like I've seen a lot of Gene Tierney movies. Gene Tierney is my favorite, and she's in a lot of bad movies.
Well, you know
Fox.
my feelings on Gene Tierney.
I know Gene Tierney. Yeah. Gene Tierney is like my number one.
That's why I wanted to say your name was Emma Kearney.
I know.
Yeah, you should change it.
I love Gene Tierney. Is just she's just. So I think actually how we connected on TikTok is I was like spamming your comments about how much I love Gene Tierney.
yeah, we're the king and queen of Tierney talk for sure. Yeah, that fuck anyone else who wants to cut in on that because not giving up that crown. She's how my channel got popular, just making fashion vids of like, look how well dressed and hot Gene Tierney is. Yeah,
like Cassini and like just. Though I love when she's dressed by other people too. Like costume designers is the other like big thing. Like I'll watch any Jean-Louis movie. Edith Head I'm kind of down on because I think Edith Head, who's like she was nominated so many times, but like I don't feel like you can look at something and know it's an Edith Head. Like that's she doesn't have like a.
She's overhyped because she's the one lady that people know, and like the one person.
She's a woman. Yeah,
sounded gendered. She's not. I don't mean a lady, but she's the one costume designer. I feel like generally people know outside of they
and
don't
she won
know,
all the Oscars, but like when I look at I can look at a movie and be like this without knowing that it's Jean-Louis and know that it's a Jean-Louis dress. And I know it's an Ori Kelly. Like Ori
Kelly is one I'm certainly picking up on more and more.
Yeah, because Joan Crawford in the shoulders. That's how you know it's an Ori Kelly. Jean-Louis, his thing is ribs.
You can also look at the tits now because if you look at that guest I had a couple weeks ago, because he was good at sort of disguising Betty Davis's huge tits because she didn't want to wear a bra, which is, I love. Shout out to a king. Yeah,
Jean-Louis is my number one guy. Which also like Rita Hayworth is just she's Rita Hayworth and Gene Tierney are number one and number two.
Yeah, I feel bad for standing Rita Hayworth because she was so like. And honestly, a little bit bad for Gene Tierney on like standing him so much because like they got sort of early stands so much in their lives that it like kind of ruined them in many ways. Yeah. So I feel bad saying I'm a mega fan, but I can't help it.
Yeah, Gene Tierney, I highly recommend her autobiography, which was obviously ghostwritten.
I have it.
It's so good. It's so it's so interesting, like hearing her talk about like the abuse she suffered and like her mental illness, but also like she marries like an oil man and is like totally fine at the end of her life. Rita Hayworth had a much more tragic ending, but I mean also Rita Hayworth is someone. I think Rita Hayworth is a better actress than Gene Tierney. But
Careful now.
I do love her. But Gene Tierney, I think you see the wheels turning for Gene Tierney, which I love. Which I think is what distinguishes her from someone like Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Katharine Hepburn, where like their acting is like effortless and like this powerhouse of like it's like they're just there. Gene Tierney, I think you see do the work.
Well,
which I still appreciate.
That's what.
But Rita Hayworth, her acting is her dancing, and like it's like that. She has this like preternatural ability to dance, and capture a room. Like I think Gene Tierney's strength is one-on-one chemistry. Rita Hayworth has chemistry with an entire room.
Yeah. Well, I think Hayworth. I think I've only ever seen her in a couple movies, but she's like, I mean, obviously she's tremendous in Gilded, but like, and the charisma, like she just has charisma out the wazoo, and she just knows how to. I mean, feels like she knows how to seduce people like better than anyone I've ever seen or heard. That being like the entire point of Gilded, I think makes it such a tremendous movie. Tierney, I feel like you're almost watching like Johnny Knoxville, to take it back to like Knoxville in the South, like because she's out there, she is the character, which is why I always generally think like when she gets to go a little bit kind of like BPD and nuts, it's like that's when Jean's the queen. Yeah, because it's just her.
Have you seen Rings on Her Fingers? The comedy she said, so good. Yeah. I also think Rita Hayworth is an underrated comedic actress. Like in there's Strawberry Blonde with Olivia de Havilland, which I think is on the books the only time she's seen partners with a woman, which is like a kind of an indictment of old Hollywood. But I think it's the only time I've seen her act across a woman. But she has scenes with Olivia de Havilland in that movie that she is so funny. And it's 1941, which is like Rita Hayworth. We're not talking about Mike Leigh at all, but right now. But 1941 is the
what's it called? Strawberry something.
The Strawberry Blonde. So she's the titular Strawberry Blonde, but Olivia de Havilland is really the main lead. James Cagney is the hero in it. So she's the second lead. But 1941 is the year that Rita Hayworth becomes Rita Hayworth. Like, there are 4 movies that come out that year. One of the ones that she did with Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire, Affectionately Yours, which she plays second fiddle to Merle Oberon, and The Blood and Sand, which she's a second fiddle to Linda Darnell. And Tyrone Power is the lead. So it's 3 movies where she's the second fiddle woman, and then the 1 movie where she's the lead. And she's not at Columbia with the Fred Astaire movie, and she comes back to Columbia, and then she never gets. It's also the last movie she gets second billing in, because she's second billed to Fred Astaire, and the next movie she'll get lead billing at Columbia until Pal Joey at the end of which is Frank Sinatra. And so it's like right before she becomes Rita Hayworth. So 1941, if you want to watch 4 movies with Rita Hayworth, I think watch her become Rita Hayworth. Fantastic year to focus on.
I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned also Olivia de Havilland. becoming more and more
so good.
Yeah.
So growing up in the South, I've obviously like Gone with the Wind like a ton.
Never seen it. That's a big blind spot. Yeah.
It's my problematic fave. It's like so ingrained in like what I love about movies as far as like costumes and like Vivian Leigh and Olivia de Havilland, and like it's like such a racist movie, but it's also like I've just seen it 100 times.
Yeah.
But Olivia de Havilland in the movie is insipid. She's such a good actress in it, but it's Melanie in that movie is so annoying that I grew up being like, I hate Olivia de Havilland. I was like totally team Joan Fontaine for years. Yeah. And then I think on her 100th birthday, like a lot of my friends were watching a lot of Olivia de Havilland movies to commemorate her 100th birthday. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch some Olivia de Havilland movies. She's so funny. I love her as a lead actress. It's Love I'm After. Have you seen that movie with Bette Davis? No. And it's the guy from Leslie Howard comedy. It is a perfect comedy. It's tight. It's so good. Like it's so funny. Olivia de Havilland plays like a fangirl to Leslie Howard and Bette Davis's like Shakespearean acting couple. Okay. And she's like she's like a stand for them, and she's following them around. And Leslie Howard and Bette Davis are always fighting. So Leslie Howard sort of takes up with Olivia de Havilland, and like no one knows what they're getting into with her. She's very young in it. She's phenomenal.
Yeah. I'd love to. I need to I just did a pod on The Snake Pit and My Cousin Rachel with her, which is like that back to back run she had I think she did The Snake Pit and then The Heiress and then My Cousin Rachel is like
The Heiress. William Wyler
monsters. Yeah.
Like William Wyler. Oh my god, I love William Wyler so much. I was actually Roman Holidays, a movie that I thought a lot about when I was watching Mr. Turner.
I need to watch that
because of the like sort of like tragic sadness and the comedy of it all. But William Wyler, the greatest director of actresses ever. Also, like anyone who like
bold statement.
Like I mean,
might be true.
I don't think any other director directed more actresses to Best Actress wins. That's his.
I think you're right. Yeah, right.
Like Bette Davis, Olivia de Havilland. I can't remember who else. Audrey Hepburn, Roman Holiday. He's incredible. And I think most people, I guess Ben-Hur is the movie that's most famous. Ben-Hur is like nothing to me with William Wyler. Like it's outstanding, but his
good
like
gay
tiny,
romance, but
his tiny movies with actresses in it. The Letter with Bette Davis. And also blocking. He's like the blocking king. Like the World War II movie, The Best Days of Our Lives. That's probably his best film.
The Children's Hour too.
Yeah, yes.
I always forget he did that one, but that's like that might have been the first movie I watched.
He directed across genres, but the thing that is shared by so many of his movies is like actresses turning in incredible performances.
Funny Girl too, I believe, right?
Yes, yeah. I think that's another Oscar. Yeah.
Yeah, he's tremendous. I need to see Jezebel with him as well because I just also going through a Bette Davis phase. Yeah, these actresses in these old movies. I mean, de Havilland, I could not believe how. I think The Heiress is probably, I made, the whole video on, like, how I think she's autistic in it. But then, like, she also plays, like, her sort of kind of mild mental illness in The Snake Pit, I think is, like, just such a tremendous, like, different take on it. And then she plays just, like, this sort of it's also a Daphne du Maurier. Is she she's not historical, right? She's just
she wrote Becca. Well, I guess Rebecca's Gothic, not historical, but Gothic. I would say Gothic romances. So Gothic is not necessarily set. Sometimes it's contemporary. Gothics can be set. I guess there's a big Gothic revival movement in the 20th century, sort of led by Daphne du Maurier, which is actually, I think, again, a lot of people point to Jane Austen as the grandmother of historical romance. The Brontes are also very important in historical romance because of the Gothic stuff. The Gothic novels, the Gothic revival novels like Daphne du Maurier are kind of parallels to the Georgette Hare novels, but they sort of combine together in historical romance in the 70s as like combined influences.
What makes something Gothic?
I mean, it's atmospheric, right? Like, again, it's kind of like defined by
Aren't historical romance novels atmospheric? I'm not trying to like interrogate you as if you invented these terms. I'm just sort of
I think historical romance, I think, is specifically defined by a romance novel that is set in history. I will say Regency novels. So for a long time, this has been collapsed. The context has been collapsed a lot in recent years. For a long time in sort of romance novel communities, historical romance was different than Regency romances. And so historical romance was defined by sort of epicness, like sprawlingness, like people often traveled to different countries. They often had violence in them. Heroines often had multiple love interests. That was sort of one genre. Regency romances are the direct descendant of Georgette Hare, where they're like parlor romances, like they're going to balls. And then they've kind of combined into one now. And so now what a historical romance is just a romance novel that is set in a period that is not our own. But Gothic, I mean, I think it's kind of like you define it by things that appear in them. Like, so like if there's a big house, that's a hint that it's a Gothic. If there are secrets about an older woman, that's a Gothic. If there's certain settings that lend themselves to Gothic. Like, we just did an episode on one of the first Black historical romances, where both hero and heroine were not enslaved people. So called Murmur of the Rain by Patricia Vaughan. Fantastic Bodice Gothic book, but it is set in Haiti. And so I think there's certain settings that like lend themselves to Gothic. And we talk about this in the episode where like Cornwall, England works well with it. Cause like the Brontes, especially Emily Bronte,
New Orleans
in
Heights, America, right? I mean, for
New
Southern
Orleans,
Gothic,
Southern Gothic, like it has to, something bad has to happen there. And so like Wuthering Heights, a lot of that book is about slavery, which is sort of lost in a lot of the sort of romance aspect of it. But like Heathcliff is found in Liverpool, which is a slave port. Like, and same with the Murmur in the Rain. It's set in Haiti in like during a period where the United States is trying to take over Haiti. And so it's just come out of like, it's got found independence from France and now has another colonial power threatening it. And so again, there's this like trauma in the land and the house that has to be undone. I think is a big part of the
Makes
Gothic.
sense to why me and my buddy like it. Cause that's East Tennessee. East Tennessee is like just poor Southern.
Yeah. I mean, Southern Gothic, you don't have like, I mean, there is like a New England Gothic. I think John Updike tries to like do that. But to me, I'm like Flannery O'Connor. That only exists in a like post-Reconstruction South.
Well, I mean, Cormac McCarthy was, I mean, I don't know to the extent that he's considered, but his early like Child of God, which is like one of my horrific books. But like, it's like trailer trash Gothic, which is, environmental horror. There's a rumor. So you grew up in southern Atlanta, right? Like south.
Yeah, so south of Atlanta, like near the airport. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Atlanta's huge if you haven't been here.
It is sprawly.
It is very sprawly. Yeah, it is.
People, I will say that I'm from Atlanta, and people up here. I live in Philadelphia now, and I'll reveal that I'm not from Atlanta proper, because like in Philadelphia, it's very distinct, like suburbs and the city. Like if you say that you live in Philadelphia and you actually live in the suburbs, like you're totally wrong. However, Atlanta, the metro area, is half of Georgia. Like there's only one big city. Like
it's only getting bigger too.
Right. You go there, and so like I identify very strongly with Atlanta, and also I lived in Atlanta after I graduated college. But yeah, I grew up 20 minutes from the Atlanta airport. Like I love Atlanta.
Do you have like the limestone, or I think it's the quartz conspiracy down there, where like some people are like in East Tennessee, there's like the but like some people allege that like why it's so fucked up around here is that like there's some type of vibration that the quartz or the limestone is emitting that just gives it this environmental horror. I didn't know if that extended down to.
I do know that like we had a quarry during my middle school, and the power went out all the time, and they're like, "Oh, it's the quarry."
They said it's the quarry. How would that be
like,
the quarry?
I guess like I think it like attracted lightning.
Okay.
And so we would get like power surges all the time.
God, that's dark.
But we had a quarry in Bloomington. So I went to law school in Bloomington, and the quarry. Have you seen Breaking Away?
No.
Fantastic sports movie. My favorite sports movie.
Bloomington,
Breaking Away,
Indiana?
Bloomington, Indiana. And there's a quarry there, and I don't remember it ever being blamed. I don't remember lightning storms ever being blamed on the quarry.
There's a lot of quarries in East Tennessee because that's like Grand Central Station up there in New York City is, shout out New York, is all Tennessee limestone, I believe, from East Tennessee, I think. But there's something about, I think it's that and the cave system around here that, like, people point
Well, there's
to as,
also
like,
the haunted lakes in Georgia. Like, that there's a big deal.
Lakes?
Yeah, like Lake Lanier.
Okay.
I think someone just died on Lake Lanier again because they were all the lakes in Georgia are man-made. They're all resulted of flooding rivers because we're below the glacial.
Okay.
Like whatever the glacier came down and made lakes in America, but we're below the glacier, and so all the lakes in Georgia are man-made. And Lake Lanier is the most, I think, the biggest, but it was definitely made by displacing African Americans.
Oh yeah.
And so it is haunted. This is the story. And people die on it every summer. And when people die, it's like, why are you on Lake Lanier? People die on Lake Lanier all the time. Go to a different lake.
For sure, East Tennessee too, because I mean that's Tellico Dam is actually your law. So Emma, I think law librarian, lawyer.
Yes.
Everything she said is legal advice. Oh, I forgot. That was the thing I forgot. Yeah, this is all legal advice.
I'm always making that whenever they ask me legal questions on the podcast. I'm like, this is not legal advice. I'm only barred in Georgia. Like, you have to. I cannot give legal advice in Pennsylvania.
My dad says that for any advice he gives because he was a family and defense lawyer. And so, like, literally, if I'll ask him, like, what do you think about this, that, and he says it's just, even like if it's just me and him, it could be in the woods, no one around us. He'd be like, well, this isn't legal advice, but
right.
He'll always give that disclaimer. But we have Tellico Dam. There was a famous Supreme Court case.
This sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, Tellico Dam was built by flooding parts of East Tennessee, and it was Tennessee Valley Authority v. Hill. After the discovery of the snail darter fish in the Little Tennessee River in 1973, a lawsuit was filed alleging the TVA's Tellico Dam construction was in violation of the Endangered Species Act. Plaintiffs argued dam construction would destroy critical habitat and endanger the population of snail darters. And it was decided by a 6-3 vote in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, granted injunction, saying that there would be conflict between the blah, 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 and it's like a very commonly cited case for, I think, like a legal reason or something. But
yeah, I don't know if I've read it in law school, or maybe I can just remember the name because it's funny.
Yeah, it's a commonly cited, you probably understand this more than I do, it's commonly cited as an example of the strict construction plain meaning canon of construction in the equitable principle that courts cannot balance equities to override statutory mandates unless on constitutional grounds. Whatever that means.
But you got to read closely the law. If the law says it, you got to do it.
Well, do you know what happened right after it? Is the Congress immediately just said, fuck this decision, and then just passed it anyway. Like, they just passed, and then they built the dam. Which is like, yeah. So it was like a thing, then they just flooded, but that flooded where I believe Sacagawea was born. I believe it, not, it's Sequoia. I always get the two names. I think, Sequoia was, famous Native American, and
yes, I grew up in North Georgia. I went to south of Atlanta, but North Georgia. I went to a lot of summer camps that mentioned Sequoia and the invention of the Cherokee language.
Right. Yeah. For the viewers, more so than the local Georgia town. There's a Sequoia High School near me, and all types of Sequoia stuff. But they flooded his birthplace. It was like the capital, one of the capitals of the Cherokee
that's a
Nation.
bummer.
Yeah, and it's so bad. I mean, many bad things, but they looted basically the entire village and like kept it. They think it's at University of Tennessee now. This is all alleged. I'm not alleging this. Emma is saying this factually and legally, but I'm alleging this. No, we're both alleging this. But yeah, they flooded that, and it was it's sort of this section, this like land where basically it's like the Native Americans, as they were protesting, saying like, they joined the lawsuit saying like, if you flood this land, you are severing our spiritual connection with the land, and you will cause like massive suffering and like all this other stuff. Not just them, but it's basically like a curse. They were sort of like arguing as like an amicus brief or something in the court. And it made, after reading that, I was like, oh, I wonder how much this explains just my child like growing up in East Tennessee in like this very sort of ambiently cursed place. because of what they did, and also like the Cherokee Nation just sort of ran along like the foothills of the Tennessee mountains.
I mean, my high school is named after a half Scottish, half Cherokee chief who sold out the Cherokee to the English settlers and then was burned in his house alive. And then my high school was named after him. So we were the chiefs in high school, and it was very embarrassing to me that we were named after a blood traitor who was a bad guy.
Well, Amherst College, right? I mean, one of the I grew up halfway in, like when I was in Massachusetts, my grandpa taught at UMass Amherst. Amherst College is named after, I mean, Amherst itself is Lord Jeffrey Amherst, and they call themselves the Lord Jeffs. Famously gave probably the inventor of biological warfare, because he just gave a bunch of smallpox blankets to Native Americans.
Yes.
And I think it was like mid 2010s probably when they finally changed the name the Lord Jeffs, like the Amherst College.
I think my high school is still the Chiefs and will remain so. But it is it was not great.
Don't mascot other races or any races, but like fine. Don't probably shouldn't.
Probably Notre Dame's the only one that's allowed.
Yeah. The Brave, that actually segues into, we were talking about the Braves before they this is just going to be a random sport. Now we're going into the sports topic because Emma and I are both big sports fans.
Yeah.
So Emma used to work for the Thrashers. I used to be one of the few. I was not a Thrashers fan, but I did go to their first ever home playoff game in many Thrashers games. They only made the playoffs once, and they got smoked 4-0 by my Rangers. I felt bad. Because then they folded like a couple years later and moved to Winnipeg. But
Winnipeg deserves it. It's like, give them the Jets. It's fine.
They do.
They need as many chances as they can to get the playoff. Like what's going on with Canadian hockey? They can't figure it out. They don't have any goalies. That's the thing.
And no one wants to move there. Yeah. No, it's a lot of pressure, and it's cold. And then now everyone is signing with like no income tax states, so there's higher taxes in Canada, which there should be.
Oh, because that's why Florida is doing so well. Right?
Yeah, partly. Florida got bought by the guy Trump wanted to put in as like Secretary of the Army, who he didn't. This is like, it's the most American story ever, because like he didn't get in Secretary because he couldn't like divest of all his financial things. But I think he was I'm all alleging this, but allegedly he's a bastard.
Literally. Or at least a bad person.
Yeah, he is. Well, he's a high frequency trader, so like they're all. Yeah, so
he was just a bad. I thought you were saying he was an illegitimate child. I have historical romance brain.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was like,
I don't know.
Bastard. What does that mean?
Yeah, no, bastard. Yeah, but he's in the modern. Yeah, he's a bad. Like, I don't like him because I don't like. I read that Michael Lewis book on high frequency traders, and it just made me insane. Which is a good book. Shout out. I don't know if you read nonfiction at all. I
mostly read books about Napoleon.
Okay, well, if you want to read a book about high frequency trading. I don't know how interested. I mean, you do stuff on
I like good nonfiction books. Most of them are honestly about Napoleon.
Okay. Sick. I love that.
I have like the YouTube algorithm of like a 60-year-old man. Like,
that's great.
It's all battle strategy and soccer highlights.
Mine's like people getting out of prison. I love listening to like the prison podcasts.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, it's great. They just have a nice way of talking. And then I've been re-listening to S-Town, I started listening to that again, because it's been years. Yeah, what was I gonna, the high frequency trading. Yeah, that's, we're like 6 tangents deep, but the high frequency trading book, I think it's called Flash Boys by Michael Lewis, but I always love it, like telling people this, for all you viewers out there, because it's my favorite, like how insane the financial system is. But the book is about high frequency traders who don't have any positions in companies. Like, they don't say like, we're going to invest in Apple for 5 years, but all they do is try and sit in between when, like, let's say Emma would go out and say, I'm going to buy 5 shares of Apple. What they would try and do is buy 5 shares of Apple really quickly and sell it to us. So they would see that we're buying at like 86 cents. And the price is 84, so they would buy at 85 and then sell it to us. But they do this trillions of times a day, and somehow this is legal, and they just sit in between. And so this was the guy who owns the Florida Panthers. I believe he founded like Virtue Financial, of course, because it's very virtuous to basically to do that. He made his billions on that. But it was the book, it gets how, like, if you're shout out my online gamers out there, if you're familiar with the concept of paying viewers, and like, you want a low ping, and like, when you're playing Call of Duty or whatever, that is basically what happened with high frequency trading, because all these companies sort of paid the NASDAQ, or I think it was this is all alleged. They paid some company that was like, they wanted to get the financial information 7 seconds before like everybody else was, and they paid him like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars just to get a 7-second advantage. It's like, imagine if you got an email 7 seconds before me. They were paying for that right, because whatever the information was, they basically just front ran and went ahead of these people, and then they, by the end of the day, they would have no position in any company because they just sort of interrupted all these things. So that guy made his money doing that, and then now he bought the Florida Panthers, and now the Florida Panthers are back-to-back champions, and every rich hockey player wants to move there.
Brad Marchand.
Yeah, Brad Marchand. Yeah. They all want to live there because if you're the equivalent of like a $6 million contract per year in Florida is like $8 million in New York or like in Winnipeg or Canada. So Canadian teams, in addition to the cold weather and the pressure, because like what else is there to do in Winnipeg and Edmonton? I mean, Edmonton, we used to have like BioWare and video game industry, but like there's not much to do in Edmonton. No offense, Edmonton, but you know, they so they're having a hard time recruiting players because of
Yeah, I mean, this happens with the Premier League in Spain and Saudi teams. It's like, it's like there's more.
You're paying like Ronaldo $250 million or something, right? Or something crazy.
Yeah, and it's like I mean, Spain, at least, like the well, I don't know. I have as a Premier League person, I have lots of like thoughts about this. I know also my team, we just lost one of our players to Real Madrid.
You say you're a Liverpool team?
Yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan.
Okay. I'm an Everton fan. So
across the Merseyside.
No, I'm kidding.
But
I like Man City.
Really?
Yeah, why not? Kevin De Bruyne?
He's not playing for them anymore.
Yeah, but he did for a while, right?
Yeah, but I just feel Man City
I like that tall Viking they got, the guy that looks weird.
I do like Holland, but they're just like, they got more money than God. Like, they just have the money on the
wazoo. That's why I like
wazoo.
them, you know?
But
I like evil sports teams.
The Spanish team, like La Liga, you call it like a farmers league, where it's like the same team wins every year. It's like Scottish teams that are like that, like Celtic and Rangers. And so it's like, it's not competitive, because Real Madrid kind of like dog walks everybody, and then Barcelona a little bit, they'll sometimes win. But the Premier League, what's nice, the value to it that I ascribe to was that like it's kind of like on any given Sunday, it's like.
You got like 4 teams, I guess now, or it used to be, yeah.
But it's like, even if certain teams, like Man City, like goes on a run and wins all these years, it's like any individual game, like a team could lose. Like Liverpool could lose to a just promoted team. Like it can happen. So that's nice about it.
Sevilla is not really beating Real Madrid too many times, right?
Right, and it's like also like the El Clasico. Like I followed it a little bit more this year. I'm trying to expand which leagues I watch. It's like El Clasico happens all the time because in every competition, Real Madrid and Barcelona get to the finals. And they're always seeded 1 and 2, and so they always get to the finals. They play El Clasico like 8 times a year, and so it's like, okay, this is so goofy. I mean, if you like La Liga, that's fine. But the stakes of it are hard to understand as an American. I
wish I could figure out like how to watch soccer. I always forget that it's on. I love it, and I love reading about the players. Actually, one of the podcasts I listen to, one of my favorite things I listen to is the one with Roy Keane and Jamie Carragher. It's like wake up and play soccer. It's all what is it? The rest is football. Oh, the upkick. Okay, they were stick to football. Stick to football.
There's so many different like names. I listen. People because I have a book podcast. People are like, "Oh, do you listen to other book podcasts?" I was like, "Sometimes." Mostly, I listen to like 12 to 15 hours of football content a week. Like the off season is killing me. I listen to a lot of. I do a lot of like team specific ones. If it's a good podcast about soccer, I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I don't really listen to a lot of movie ones. It's mainly prison podcasts and in sports. I mean, to the extent sports and politics ones. But I like that. I don't really even follow the Premier League that much, but I think I love the accents. I mean, the
accents are great. That's one of the reasons I picked Liverpool. Like I just picked them sort of randomly, and I was like, okay,
they do have the best British accent.
I got really into them.
It sounds like, sing-songy.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I got really into them right after they won the Champions League. And so it was like at the end of the season. And I was like, oh, like now I have all summer to like get used to the Scouse accent. So I just listened to Liverpool podcast for like a whole summer so I could get used to like understanding what they were saying. And I just, I love.
I will say I don't like Liverpool. That's like the one team I know I don't like to the extent because this was like 15 years ago. There was a guy who would argue about hockey on an internet forum, and he had a Liverpool avatar. So I just associated he must be a Liverpool fan.
They're the best. They're family FC. They're like the guys. They're lads. They're friends with each other. Mo Salah
Justice for the 97, right? All that.
Yes. Also, the Scouse. You said that they're the best accent, but like British people shit on it all the time. It's like Scouse, not English. Like
very working class.
I love that. Yes, I love that. It's like they're very. They're great.
it switched on me a little bit because I felt so bad for him after watching the ESPN Hillsborough documentary on Liverpool.
Yes.
Which is maybe the saddest movie. Do not watch that. That is an anti-recommendation.
I can't watch it without. I can't watch anything about Hillsborough without panicking. Like Crowd Crush is just so terrifying.
Yeah. But viewers, if you're out there, don't watch that one because it's
very pressing.
People, I think, got crushed.
And totally. I mean, it's like the fire in the housing that happened a few years ago. We totally blamed government failure, police failure, and it's very unifying, I think, for the fans, even people who are not from Liverpool. It's like, oh, this is something that like you can just see very clearly, like how disrespected the city is.
It made me as mad as like watching Sallow, just in terms of like this, like just I don't know, they're tied in my head of like the oppressive natures of like governments and what how little they actually care about the rest of us in many ways, a certain segment of them.
Yeah, I just
very sad.
Love the boys.
Yeah, this is a real. You're real. I mean, I guess we're getting into sports, but you're from Philly, and
I live in Philly. I'm from Atlanta.
You live in Philly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Apologies. You live in Philly, and then you're a Liverpool fan. So that's like the opposite of my sports fandom, because New York. So I wanted to tell you so I think we originally said. We'll come back to the Atlanta, but I was excited to tell you because my grandpa, who recently passed, was a complicated person, but he was among the many shithead Ranger fans in the 70s, and the Rangers and Flyers used to be, that's why I wore the hat, they used to be like the big rivals in a way that they haven't been in years. Probably 2012 is the last time that there was because they played like the Winter Classic, and there was I think they played in the playoffs maybe that year, but there was a little bit of rivalry going on. But did you know the phrase buy a Porsche Hextall? Do you know what that used to be a chant?
I don't think I've ever heard that. No.
Okay, so this is always my favorite, since you're a Premier League has some vile chants, right?
Yes.
It used to be like New York Rangers Flyers, so the Flyers had a goalie in the late 70s named Pelle Lindbergh who died in a Porsche, and so the goalie,
I do know that story.
Yeah, the goalie after so my grandpa, when he was teaching me like how to be a Ranger fan, or what Ranger fans are like, he said that Ranger fans after that would show up to Ranger Flyers games with Pelle Lindbergh's jersey, and they crossed out his name just with dead, like his number and dead on the back in the jersey, is like how bad this rivalry was in like the late 70s, 80s.
They just sound kind of like hooliganism in England, yeah, that's pretty awful.
But that's where the chant buy a Porsche Hextall was, because it was because the guy,
you should buy it so you'll die in a Porsche.
Yeah, Ron Hextall is this famously violent Philadelphia Flyers goalie. It's funny, I think I don't know if we were talking about off camera or on camera, but my mom's a librarian, my dad's a lawyer. Emma is both. They also lived in Philly, I think, after graduation. I think my mom was a librarian at Penn, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
For like a year or two, for whatever reason they lived in Philly. But she, like my hatred for Liverpool, she likes hockey. She doesn't necessarily have a favorite team, but she hates the Flyers because my dad would take her to games like after they graduated in the early 80s, and they were so violent that like she's just like, whoever this team is, I don't like them. Like
it's so odd. So I grew up in Atlanta, but I grew up a Phillies fan because my dad loves the Phillies. But my dad is from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
But my his name is Philip. And he grew up when you would follow team baseball in the paper and like on the radio.
Yeah.
And so he would see the initials PHL and was like, oh, that's my team. And so my dad is from Pittsburgh.
More nominative determinism.
Yes. He was a Phillies fan in the 70s. So it's like when Roberto Clemente was there and the Pirates were amazing. He was like, I like Philly. I was like, it's very contrarian. And then he raised 3 contrarian children in Atlanta who liked the Phillies and the Eagles. But in my mind, like before I moved here, I was like, my dad is like a Philly fan. Like he is what like Phillies fans are like. And I was like, I never understood the reputation of like Philly fans because like my dad is from Pittsburgh, which is effectively the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like he is
Midwest nice.
He is so nice. He's so sweet. He's only ever called 2 people a jackass in front of me, and they were Mike Love and Jared Kushner. So this is like the level that we're talking about here. I moved here and I was like, interesting. This is different. But but like my bed is made. Like people like try to talk to me about, they're like, but they're so rude. And I'm like, I know that, but like I can't. I'm 33. I can't not like the Phillies anymore just because people are loud and curse. Which also which is not my mode of interacting with the world because I'm from the South. But it's. I love how passionate they are. I mean, I went to a couple playoffs game when the Phillies were on the run, and it was like life changing being like in Philly for a playoff environment. Growing up in Atlanta, like people liked the Braves in the 90s, but like I don't think Atlanta has a really good relationship with a lot of their sports teams. Like moving the Braves stadium. Honestly, the best sports games that I've been to in Atlanta have been like Atlanta United games. Like those are really fun at Mercedes-Benz. And it's just like I like being I underestimated when I moved here how much I would love living in the city where like my teams or everyone's rooting for my teams. I will say during the Eagles season, like I guess we were 2-2 at the beginning of last season. I mean, we won the Super Bowl, which was incredible. But we were 2-2 at the beginning of the season, and I was like, if we lose another football game, I was like, I'm gonna like people are gonna be like, people are gonna lose their minds. I was like,
you gotta start throwing batteries. That's
cranky when people like when they lose. And I mean, also the NBA playoffs this year, like the Sixers weren't in it, and it was so much more fun. Like just watching this playoffs were so much more fun because I didn't have to worry about a second round exit. I was like, they're gone. I don't have to worry about the Sixers. Like the mood of the city is not going to be dependent on what happens with the Sixers, which we know is what's going to happen because they always exit in the second round. So it was.
I like the Sixers. I got to be honest with you, that is like probably the one Philly team. I don't like the Phillies. The Eagles, I love the Eagles fans just because like any fans that throw batteries, I support. Like
Santa Claus was drunk. He was not a sanctioned Santa Claus. He was a man dressed up as Santa Claus who was belligerently drunk and yelling at people.
I'm not criticizing it, you know, but that's not the first time they've thrown batteries.
My question is always like, why did they have batteries? Like, who brings batteries? Like that. That's always my question.
Phillies or Eagles fans,
right?
Yeah. There was a game. There was a game in. When the Browns were leaving town in Cleveland, they had to play the game. I don't think it was against the Eagles, but they had to play the game half. Like as soon as they hit the 50-yard line, they had to turn the game around because the fans, when they were leaving, this was like when everyone was pissed at Art Modell. They like came to the stadium.
That one time everyone was pissed at Art Modell.
Yeah, that one time. Well, like in the last game, they came to the stadium with like their work tools, and they were like throwing so much shit, and they were like ripping apart the stadium and like throwing it at like all the players and everybody. And so like they had to get it, which is normal day in Eagles fans.
I've not been to an Eagles game since I moved here. They're too expensive for me to like justify it. Like it's also I'm from the South. Like I can tolerate about one game a season up here. Like before it gets too cold for me to be in a football stadium. Like, I get, like it's just there's some aspects of my life that I'm still very Southern.
I'd love to go see. I don't think I've never been to like a pro or college football game, despite living near like UT.
I've been to a few college football games. I mean SEC. That's the other thing. I don't really have an SEC team. My sister went to Alabama, but I went to a women's college. Yeah, she went to Alabama.
No, I mean, you don't have Georgia?
No, Georgia is like very hilly, and she didn't want to go to a hilly campus. Alabama is flat.
I mean, like, why don't you like Georgia? I'm sorry.
Because we're Alabama fans.
Okay.
But
gotcha.
I don't have a. Also, I mean, it's kind of like I think there's some comedian from Boston, and people always assume that he's a Red Sox fan, and he's like, every guy who's ever beaten me up was wearing a Red Sox hat. Like I don't like the Red Sox.
I see.
But it's like Georgia. It's like every girl that I didn't like who in high school went to Georgia and pledged to sorority. So I'm like, Georgia.
Oh,
but up here, I'm like an SEC truther against the Big Ten. Like I am like an SEC. I'm like Big Ten. I'm like Big Ten's barely real football. I'm like I get very high and mighty about it. I'm like Paul Feinbaum. I'm just like it's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, so that because
I
don't
get the
have an
same
SEC
way.
team.
I never really watched UT a lot until I moved up to New York City, and then I was like, UT football, it's the greatest.
Yeah,
you know.
I'm just like very SEC defender because I'm like Penn State. I'm like, what is? Also, the Big Ten. The Big Ten. The Big Ten is too big. There are 2 teams in it. Like it. Yeah. Also, I mean, people. There's. I lived in Indiana for 3 years, and there's always big debate. This is like a big thing in the Midwest. Is like debating about what the Midwest is. It's like, like how far west does it go? How far east does it go? Like how far north, south? Like is Missouri the Midwest? And like my dog is eating a cup. Steve, don't do that.
Your dog's name is Steve?
Yeah, he's Steve McQueen.
Okay, cool.
But the Midwest is like, if you're in the Big Ten, you're in the Midwest. So like Rutgers, welcome to the Midwest. Like that's
New
the
Jersey's
defining
not the
character.
Midwest.
No, but Rutgers is because it's in the Big Ten. If you're gonna have a ridiculous conference, I get to apply this ridiculous logic to the regions of our country.
Rutgers is not the Midwest. Camden is Philly, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Camden is Philly.
Camden is Philly. New Jersey does not. New Jersey is either New York,
exist.
Jersey. Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
It's New York, Jersey, or Philly, Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. The go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
New Jersey as a concept is very. I can see New Jersey from my apartment.
Yeah.
It's just like it's fascinating up here. Also, like Atlanta is growing up in the South. Georgia's so big. I was like, I didn't know anyone who was not from Georgia. Like everyone was from Georgia.
Yeah.
But now it's like you meet people who work in Philly and they live in New Jersey and are like, or Delaware. Like the states are so small up here.
Yeah. My parents are, or my dad is from Jersey, but he's from the New York side of Jersey. That's the other thing. Growing up seeing Phillies Flyers games, the Devils Flyers had the big rivalry in the '90s, and boy, had the amount of fights I saw with Flyers fans, like that was also like just up close and personal, just like. They would take me to. It used to be like dangerous to go to like a Flyers Devils game in the '90s when my parents and I never forget was like the formative. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But like there was a Flyers Devils, like I think it was a playoff game that they took us to in the old Meadowlands in New Jersey, where you had to like go under. There was like a tunnel that you had to go into to get into the stadium in North Jersey. In Flyers Devils, Flyers would show up because it's only so small. It's like a couple hours or whatever. I take the train up. And so there'd be like, you'd see like 30 fights between like Italian guys. I wore my all guys that look like Tony Soprano. I wore that shirt for today. This is if I move up to Philly, that's going to be what that's going to be what I look like either way.
Yeah.
But definitely.
That phenotype is definitely robust here.
It's going to be my phenotype for sure. But there was a family of like Ranger fans. It was the funniest thing because like the Rangers sucked in the 90s, late 90s. And, we went with there was like 30 guys that looked like Tony Soprano or Silvio who were yelling at each other and about to fight, Devils fans and Flyers fans on either side of it. And then in the middle of it, there was just like this one family of Rangers fans, like the most like classic all-American family you could imagine, like mom, two kids, nuclear family, like they were like 5 and 6. For whatever reason, I think this was child abuse or neglect, certainly. I would have arrested them if I was CPS. Like they were all wearing Rangers jerseys, even the kids, to a Devils Flyers game, just the 4 of them. And literally,
why?
They stopped. They literally, I don't know why. In the tunnel in Meadowlands in an important game, and the entire both sides just stopped and just started swearing and yelling at this family.
It feels like wearing
kids.
like a Yankees jersey to like a I don't know, like a Sox Mets game. Like what are you doing? Like you're giving them a common enemy.
Yeah, if on YouTube, there's great videos. If you look up like walking through bleacher creatures, or walking through like Yankee bleachers with the Red Sox jersey, and like from the 90s and 2000s, it is just the vilest stuff you've ever heard. I mean, they used to chant.
Yeah. Philly doesn't have a monopoly on this.
No. That's what I was going to say. There used to be like some really awful like between the Yankees and Rangers. The Yankee fans, if they saw a Red Sox fan they would play YMCA in the stadium and they would just chant "Why are you gay?" at the one fan. It's just like I cannot. You just can't do that. Like you can't do that one. The Rangers had a guy. He still dances at the games called Dancing Larry, where they used to chant because he had like some incident where this woman tried to dance with him and he pushed her away. And so when it was his time to dance, the fans in the stadium would all start chanting "Homo Larry" for like, and this was like a whole like ring, just a "Homo Larry." It was just like getting him to dance until the Rangers literally had to tell all and these were season ticket holders, to be like, you can't do that anymore. Like this is this is 2009. Like you can't be chanting "Homo Larry" at a guy. So yeah, Philly, both. Definitely not it's probably every Northeast. It's just Northeast.
Yeah, it's just Northeast culture. Yeah, I mean, my sister and I, when we moved up here together, and we just like there's like definitely culture shock with like just like the language, like how people talk and like what's considered rude, and like drinking culture is really different up here, and it takes some getting used to. But I mean, I love Philly. I love living in a downtown. I love living somewhere with trains. I love the Northeast Corridor, going to New York, going to Boston, going to like DC. It's
absolutely,
it's great. I miss Atlanta a lot. I miss chicken salad. That's a good chicken salad. And
I do love
like
a chicken salad,
barbecue, and I miss the food a lot.
There's an image I just remembered that describes I'm trying to see if I can. This was my experience going to Flyers Devils games as a kid. But this is taken at the Philly Stadium, where you just have like a whole bunch the guy in the Flyers polo drinking. They just guy is a guy in a Devils fan in a chokehold. This was the entire experience. So I do want to go to a game there though, because I've always heard.
I do recommend Sixers games. NBA games, I think probably the most fun, like fan experience, like from start to finish. Like there's like not, it's the opposite of a baseball game where like nothing, there's never a down moment during an NBA game.
Yeah.
And I got really into the playoffs this year, and I feel like I'm going to try and follow the NBA more. I think I got to pick a team other than the Sixers. The Sixers are so demoralizing to me. Like I don't like how they're run. They're owned by Josh Harris, who also owns the Commanders, which like I hate.
And the Devils.
And the Devils, and he is now going to own the WNBA team that's coming to Philly in 5 years. And I just think that is so. I hate it. I hate that he owns teams in multiple markets. I think
big nerd. He's heavy into analytics. He's
and like he also owns Fanatics, which is like an evil company that's ruined every short
I forgot
ever.
About that, yeah.
Yes, and so I'm like the Sixers. I don't love. But I honestly I just got to pick a team. But or maybe I'll just become like a neutral and just get really like an NBA head. Because I had so much fun during the playoffs. Just
that's
watching.
That's kind of what I do with the NBA. Is I don't pick a team like the Lakers. Because I like LeBron. I've always like he's he's cool. I like Luka, but I don't like. I'm trying not to pick a team just because it's.
Well, it's definitely the most like character driven sport. I think like because there are fewer people on the team like on the floor at any given moment, and then also I think because you can see their faces. Like there's like narratives. It's kind of like. I mean, it feels like the NFL plus pro wrestling in a way, where it's like there's heels and there's heroes, and like you can like a heel, like people like I really like James Harden when he played for the Sixers. I was like, people are like he's a bad guy, and I was like, yeah, but I like that narrative of like James Harden's a heel who comes in and like fucks shit up and on whatever team he's on.
I like an evil team.
Yeah,
I love an evil team.
I think I want to get more into the NBA. I've been trying this year. So my one of my YouTube habits is that I will watch coverage of the NBA in Italian because Italians love basketball. And so I can talk about basketball in Italian pretty well. Like my vocab for Italian basketball is absurd compared to a lot of other areas of my life. So I need to follow actual games now.
We were talking about politics and fashion before. Whenever I think of the evil teams in the Lakers, this is like one of my favorite tweets. But it's just like the intersection of. For the audio-only listeners, it says a key element of fascism is making it appear that the entire world is organized against your group, when in fact you are in the most advantageous and powerful position in society. The Los Angeles Lakers are a textbook example of this phenomenon.
The Dodgers are doing this right now. Just how the Dodgers talk about the Dodgers. I was like, MLB, no fix has ever been in more than for the MLB coverage of the Dodgers. And I mean, I love Ohtani, but the like this many batters until Ohtani shows up, or like Ohtani hit a single and here it's all over the MLB accounts. It's like the fix is in.
Yeah, and he got such a sweetheart deal, and I think they're making money off the deal. I was listening to a podcast with Scott Boras, and he was talking about like his international rights being like worth $250 million a year, and he didn't get because he took like such a low value contract. It's like the Dodgers actually it is enabling the Dodgers to go out and spend, like signing him like gave them an extra $100 million a year to sign other players because of how valuable he is as a player to like these other markets, which is crazy. This podcast has now become a podcast for probably squarely two people, probably just me in terms of the cross between
like the
historical romance.
Like, growing up in the South, sports, historical romance, Mike Leigh a little bit.
yeah. Gene Tierney. Olivia de Havilland, and people getting beat up at Devils Flyers games.
Yeah.
The other thing is, let's make it even more specific. So this is the map I always show people. So hockey's coming back to Atlanta. That's the other thing. Emma worked at the Thrashers.
Yes. Phillips Arena, which is not called that anymore.
Yes. So this was the famous map, if you want to know, just in case you're one of the few people who's still with us. The Braves use this map as a map of their season ticket holders to say why they're moving up to. So this is a map of Atlanta with Turner Field. This is where downtown is. So it was a nice stadium. It's what they built for the Olympics, and Atlanta surprisingly has, every time I'm like decent public transportation for a major American city. Problem is, almost no white people want to ride MARTA, as they call it. I think Metro.
Yeah. And every expansion of MARTA that's ever been proposed. I mean, there's a lot of. Because the issue, Atlanta is very sprawly, which you can see from this map. There's Atlanta proper is all within the perimeter highway, and then it sprawls out. But
this
people
big
always,
red blob is the worst part of the country.
Yes. They always vote against. It's like you need collaboration between the municipality of Atlanta, and then the municipalities around outside of it to expand the metro into these suburbs. And people always want it because they don't want the unsavory element that comes with it. Like there's no MARTA stop by Emory University, which is is ITP in the side of the perimeter. And like you can't go to Emory on MARTA. There was a stop by Agnes Scott, which is how I commuted from Agnes Scott to Phillips Arena when I was in college. And
yeah, and so the Atlanta's had they're going to have 3 hockey teams. So they had 2. They had the Flames in the 80s that moved to Calgary, and then they had the Thrashers. This might be just a secret way of Canada getting more teams, because the Flames are still there.
Yeah, it's just
a
pipeline.
It's just a pipeline. The Atlanta to Canada. So maybe this would be Quebec, hopefully Quebec City, because I used to the Nordiques had the cool. You ever seen a Quebec Nordiques jersey? Do you remember the Quebec Nordiques? I don't think so. Oh, they had the greatest jersey.
All of my hockey knowledge comes from a period from 1998 to 2000 when my brother was really into hockey. So I followed Jaromir Jagr was my favorite player for like 30 years because I just kept up with him from the Penguins.
Shout out Jagr. He's
looks
still
like a
playing.
little. He's like in the Czech Republic now.
What do you think this is? Yeah, what is their logo?
It looks like an elephant trying to play hockey.
That's what everyone thinks it is. Yeah, it's actually supposed to be an igloo, but everyone is just like they call it the elephant logo.
That's not what an igloo looks like. An igloo, it's like cut off. It's like your igloo has been destroyed.
Yeah. It was...
Are there a lot of igloos in Quebec? I feel like that is not the area of Canada that I associate igloos with.
Well, I think the Nordiques, I believe in French, means northerners, I think. Mm-hmm. So they were at Quebec City, because Quebec City was in the north of Quebec, north of Montreal. And so I think it was just like, but their jerseys were so beautiful.
Quebec City and Quebec are different. Quebec is the...
Yeah, it's like New York City, New York. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So Quebec City is like a smaller city than Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal's the bigger one. Got it.
It'd be like a thing, I guess. I'm trying to think of like the comparison between like capital, like what
Albany,
U.S. state.
Like that small, or Harrisburg?
It's bigger. I think it's like 800,000 maybe metro area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not too big. But...
Maybe Indianapolis. Well, I mean, Indianapolis is also the biggest city in Indiana, but it's also a small city.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think of even like, because Montreal is huge, so Montreal is like the big.
Maybe like Sacramento.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
It's like not LA. It's smaller. It's like a city, but it's relatively so much smaller than LA.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
we came up with a metaphor. We nailed it.
We did it. Yeah, they left, unfortunately. But they used to have great rivalries with the Canadiens. And it used to be like one of the most, like, if Rangers Flyers and Devils Flyers was bad, like. The French rivalry between the Canadians and the Nordiques.
I mean, French Canadians are such a fascinating, like, just unique culture. Celine Dion, watch her talk, and you're like, I just assume they're all like that.
Speaking of reading, this is because always one of my favorite tidbits. Do you know the little sports trivia? Do you know the last illiterate person to coach a team to the championship in a major sport?
No, illiterate? No, I don't know.
Yeah, in 1993, the coach of the Canadiens, the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, their coach was Jacques Demers, who couldn't read, and it wasn't found out until after he was like. So shout out to, since we have a author, I just always like a weird like.
Yeah.
Yeah, he later got elected to Quebec Parliament, where like
and
even though
still couldn't read.
Still couldn't read, but in this because he was very charismatic, he is Stanley Cup coach, et cetera, et cetera. But I always remember because like they had an interview with him, like voters after, like, yeah, we think we'll do a good job, but we do think it's important that he learn how to read if he's going to be in government. Yeah, I miss these people. So yeah, Atlanta is this big sprawl area is just nothing but endless suburbs that is kind of terrifying and environmentally horrific. And so the Braves' new stadium is right here because no one wanted to go to Turner Field.
In the elbow of 3 different interstates.
Yes.
You could see it when you're going on 3 different interstates. I'm like having like PTSD flashbacks from commuting in Atlanta by looking at this map.
Oh God, yeah. It's brutal.
I once lived ITV. I lived in East Atlanta and I worked downtown, and my commute one way was often 90 minutes. Sometimes I would walk home rather than drive my car. I would walk home 6 miles rather than drive. Yeah, there's a reason I live in Philadelphia and I don't live in Atlanta. I'm barred in Georgia and I don't live in Atlanta.
Yeah, I would never. This is some of the most horrific traffic I think I've ever. Probably this is tied with like the stretch in between Seattle and Tacoma in Washington.
Have you ever driven in Lexington, Kentucky?
I've driven through there for sure.
That's the worst traffic I've ever lived in.
Really?
Yes, because it's structured like Atlanta with a perimeter highway. But the problem is with Lexington is that around the perimeter highway, it's all horse farms. And so it can't sprawl. And so all the roads that go inside on the spokes they have alternating traffic directions. So like it'll be like 4 lanes, 3 of them will go in or versus out based on the commuting.
Oh God.
And the traffic, maybe it's not as long as Atlanta traffic, but for like how far you're going and also like living in a college town with college drivers, worse traffic. So I always defend Atlanta by saying actually Lexington, Kentucky has worse traffic than Atlanta.
So I've always sped through there, I guess, like driving up to Chicago or Indianapolis or Pittsburgh or whatever. But yeah, it's so the new Atlanta hockey stadium. So Braves fans didn't want to go down to Turner Field, despite it being built in 1996. I mean, it was a new, nice arena. So they built this whole new one, and so now they're building a hockey stadium somewhere up here as well. I believe, I think in this 30, I think it's Alpharetta, somewhere in this like 360 zone. Where all the rinks are, because this is where this is a map of white flight
in elementary school, and we used to have to drive up to North Atlanta for him to play games.
Yeah, I used to play. When I played, we have to, because there's only enough for like one. Atlanta has a big. That's the one thing the Thrashers did well, besides hiring you, of course, Emma. Is they did youth hockey really well. So there's tons of Atlanta teams, which is why they're going back there. But there's like 6 rinks up here. This is kind of like a map of white flight, to be honest with you. Yeah. My mom is an Atlanta native, and she was born in Atlanta, Piedmont Hospital, and grew up in Decatur. And then she moved to Marietta, which is right near the stadium. And so, I mean, and she born in 1960, and I was like, everyone left Decatur. This is also why, in some reason, I mean, I said it's the worst, and it is kind of like, I don't know, I don't really like it, but it's also... This was who was this? It's also like how Georgia has 2 Democrat senators now, because there's so many transplants to this area, and I think film people and other people sort of moving in here. That it has changed the demographics. I think this is where John Ossoff had his congressional seat. I want to say was north of
he's
here.
From. I don't know if definitely from there, and I think
it used to be the speakers though. What's his face? Not. Who's the Contract with America guy?
John Lewis. I was thinking of John Lewis. But John Lewis, who was my representative in Congress when I was an Atlanta voter, my very proud Atlanta vote, John Lewis. But Newt Gingrich, which is a crazy thing to name a baby. Newt Gingrich was from Atlanta.
Big wife guy.
Big wife guy. She has a crazy Instagram presence. I don't know if this is things that people know if they're not from Georgia. But
most deranged Instagram presence ever.
Calista Gingrich has a crazy Instagram. But I will say, I don't want too much credit being not from north of Atlanta. I am from south of Atlanta, but I grew up in. Are you familiar with Peachtree City as a concept?
Isn't that like every street and city in?
So Peachtree, yes, there are lots of Peachtrees in Atlanta. However, I'm from Peachtree City.
Okay.
Which is by the airport. It's like 20 minutes south of the airport. The Atlanta airport is south of. It's inside the perimeter, but it's on the south side. It's not in downtown.
It's probably like this big thing right here, right?
I can't see your mouse.
Oh, sorry. So
this
big splotch seems like airporty.
So actually, the 30269, the dense area of all those people, season ticket holders. The reason it's dense on this map of white flight is my incredibly white suburb, Peachtree City. And so it was a planned community in the 1970s because the Atlanta airport's on the south side of the city. The white pilots did not like commuting through the city to get to the airport. And so they invented the city called Peachtree City that's surrounded by rural areas. Less so now, it's sprawled a little bit. That was a planned community. And the thing it is famous for, that people have, if you've heard of it, it is golf carts. So the villages. Yes, the villages. So in the planned community, there are 5 villages. They all have fake Scottish names, and within each village there's a grocery store and an elementary school and a Chick-fil-A, and also sometimes other things. But the idea was that you could take your golf cart and you could travel to a grocery store and an elementary school and your restaurants without having to get into a car. And so I grew up in a place where everyone drove golf carts, and I drove a golf cart to high school. My high school has the world's largest golf cart parking lot.
You drove a golf cart to high school?
Yeah, because you could start driving it to high school when you were 16 or 15 instead of 16. You only needed a learner's permit.
That's crazy.
And yeah, so it's this like weird little bubble in the South, and it is strange. I mean, I may be biased. I love all my friends that I'm still friends with from high school, but it created weird people. Like there's like a weird thing.
I'm
about
not
it.
shocked.
Yeah, but usually people who know Atlanta suburbs, I tell them I'm from Peachtree City, and they're like, "Oh, like the golf carts." I'm like, "Yeah."
I didn't know that was the golf. That's Well, now I was gonna be. I mean, I figured because we share the 40s movies and sports and all that. I was like, we should be friends, but. You now seem like you grew up with like the Rockefellers. Like driving a golf cart to school seems like that is like a level.
My parents did not. I was the only person from my high school that I was close friends with who didn't have a parent who worked for Delta. Like in my graduating class, like everyone had Delta parents. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a journalist. So we lived there because we had family there, and it was a weird place.
He still drove a golf cart to school. That's crazy.
It was so weird.
Yeah. We I think I told the story on the last pod that just released, but everyone basically drove old trucks to school. And the last podcast I was telling a story about this kid hit a deer on his way to school and brought it into school, and then we drug out into the woods and splayed it. Like that was my high school.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the area around my hometown. It was like very rural. Like and so like my mom taught at one of those high schools for a long time, and people would bring her meat and stuff, and it was like very Georgia in that way. And then like inside of it there was this like little planned community full of pilots that like wanted short commutes to the airport. So it's just a strange place.
Yeah, that's so wild. So much of Atlanta, I feel like in Georgia, in the South in general, can just be explained by it's just racism or like people just segregation, and that's why it's like this.
Yeah, but I mean, moving up north, I mean, I'm not a native of Philadelphia. But I mean, we have the trash strike is going on right now. I don't know if you've heard about this. I've made TikToks about it.
Yeah. But just for like, your TikToks.
So we have a strike right now. DC 33 is striking. There are sanitation workers plus a lot of blue collar workers who work for the city. And I try to own the racism from the place that I grew up in. But also like moving to a northern corridor city, and like I feel like I see a lot of racism here, and especially in like on a large scale, like with how people talk about the DC 33, which is a majority black union. And also, I mean, I think there like Atlanta's has that like white flight aspect to it, but also like Atlanta proper itself, like it feels like a not very segregated city. As far as like if you live in the city, like what cultural things you experience, like what restaurants you go to, or like where you shop, or like all those things within the city or within Fulton County. Whereas like in Philadelphia, people talk a lot about like Philly versus Philadelphia, like what parts are black culture, which parts are white culture, which parts are people from the suburbs who've moved to Philadelphia. And I'm all witnessing this as an outsider, but it is interesting, sort of like coming in and.
Yeah, like, Northeast is crazy segregated. Yeah. And neighborhood by neighborhood. That was one thing I noticed like, going up there, especially when I was in New York.
Yeah. And people up here ask me, they're like, what's it like growing up somewhere that's like so backwards? And I'm like, you're from Berks County, which you don't know this if you're not from Philly, but it's incredibly red. A suburb of Philadelphia. Like it's not, and like Philly and Georgia have very similar like electoral makeups. It's just people. It's like assuming that Georgia is racist, I think it also or any part of the South, like you assume it's like backwards and racist. It's like, well, you're discounting a lot of the black people who live there, like that make culture. Like Atlanta culture is defined by black people. Philadelphia culture is also defined by black people, but a lot of times people don't lead with that.
Yeah, I mean, even just in the sports fans' wise, I mean, all the Celtics players hated playing in Boston because of how racist Boston is and was for like years and years and years and years and years. Same thing with I mean, there's definitely there is not a great history. I mean, that's where the move bombing was, I believe, was in Philly, right?
Yes.
In like the 70s and stuff too. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, awful history, and like the university's like Penn's relationship with West Philly is really rough and ongoing. That's the thing. It's like this is stuff that's like very much ongoing. Is that
elite academic institution is
but they have like a bunch of bones that have been mishandled. This is like their latest controversy, I think, at least when it comes to race. They have, I think, from the move bombing, and they have like people's bodies in the catacombs of Penn that have been mislabeled, and it's like, whose bones are these?
Jeez. And doing the same thing UT did with the Native American remains that are now underwater under Tellico Dam.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, there's a monument for Sequoia in Tellico in Tennessee where it's like they have a monument. It's like this is the monument for Sequoia. This is not where they were, like they were born, because that's flooded. But it's like near here, so it's like we can't put it here. But it's like, oh, it's somewhere in this area that it was. Yeah, that honestly drove me crazy when I went to college in Tacoma, because I had, you know, just coming, like I was coming from like a poor, like rural high school, East Tennessee, and like certainly, you know, heard ungodly racism in high school, and, you know, saw it and blah 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 blah. But when I went to college, you'd have like people who grew up in these other places like ask me about it, but then like they would be afraid to go to the black part of Tacoma. Like we'd have on campus things, because University of Puget Sound, where I went, is like downtown Tacoma, not downtown Tacoma, it's like North Tacoma, but it was like a few like 5-minute 10-minute walk from like a much blacker part of the city. And I used to like go to this there's this great vegan Jamaican place up there, shout out Quickie too, I hope that they're still around. But I'll just like walk there, like go there, and people be like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there, because I've heard not to, like it's sketchy over there. Sketchy, at least for, I don't know if that was the same for you, but it's like the college millennial term for black. It felt like just like, oh, that's a sketchy part of town, but it's like that's just where black people live. It's like not
right. I mean, I litmus test up here for when I'm talking to people is their willingness to take the subway. And especially the people who are native New Yorkers will move to Philadelphia and be like, I don't want to take the subway. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like I also, like, as a Southern driver, I feel much safer on the subway than in a car up here.
Oh God, yeah.
But it's like I take the subway everywhere. Like I will do anything to avoid taking my car now, especially now that I live in the city. And it's people will tell me that they want to take the train, and I'm like, I've never felt unsafe on the train. I've felt unsafe crossing streets, walking, all the time because of drivers. But I was like, it's So if people are down on SEPTA, I'm like, you're revealing something about yourself, whether you realize it or not.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it on Twitter or something the other day, maybe a couple of weeks ago. But it was this this podcast where this black dude was talking about like his experiences living in like the South versus the North. Or you're saying like it's like in the South, it's like the racism is like they will live right next to you, but they don't want you to like raise too high in society. Like they don't want like a black doctor or like a black lawyer. But in the North, it's like it's fully segregated. They don't want to live near you, but you can be a black doctor or a black like.
But like over there.
Yeah, like over there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the same. Like, I had a weird childhood because like in Springfield when I grew up, it was my school was like majority black and Puerto Rican. So it's like I was fortunate in that like it was just never weird. Like all my friends, like they were just all black kids and Puerto Rican kids. So it was just like it was weird moving to the South where it's like, okay, now there's none here. So I feel fortunate in that I had that. It's just like there's like a baseline. I feel like uncomfortableness that people who lived in like a northern white suburb or something, or like a city that's like more segregated, honestly almost outside, it's like a weirder racism where they're just sort of like they have like a general anxiety or nervousness around like black people or minorities.
They read the look of the area and they're like, this is just a vibe, and they ascribe it to like gut feeling or safety. I'm like, your gut feeling is culturally created. But like, this is not like some magic intuition you have. You're just being racist.
I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
I have this superpower that I can tell whether or not a neighborhood is dangerous. And they just see a black person, it's just like dangerous. That's like that's just racism. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely do like litmus tests for people up here with like how they talk about both the city and also how they talk about the South. Like I don't suffer fools up here for people will tell you that I'm being incredibly articulate considering that I'm from Atlanta. And I was like, it's a city. Like I went to a really good high school. What are you talking about? But I mean, I honestly think they haven't met someone from the South. They think Southern accents are what people do on SNL for Southern accents. I'm like, I have a Metro Atlanta accent. Like I feel like I can tell, I hear you and I can tell you has spent time in the South. I feel like my voice, you can tell that I'm from the South if you're from the South. But if you watch SNL and watch like people do a comical Southern, I don't sound like that.
They do the Gone with the Wind. They do the like the when the dog bit the hog, it was against the law, and they do the like dip thing. It's like the real East Tennessee accent is. There's a video of a guy driving into a rock slide that happened near me, and he just like it's like a lyrical. East Tennessee also has like its own. It's more Appalachian than like
it's like mountains.
Yeah. So it's got like this other thing. I will say I have. It's like one of two minds because like they have all these stereotypes about the South or like anything else, but. So I feel like a lot of those are like inaccurate or like, it's like surface level or whatever. Having said that, my buddy did grow up on a road with two separate guys named Robert Bobby who were unrelated. So, there are certain.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I miss about driving in the South. Like when you would see a interstate sign that was like named after like a state trooper who passed away or something, but like their first name would be one name and their middle name would be a nickname not of that name.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen up here.
Yeah, there's one right near where I used to live. I can't remember.
I mean, my brother.
It's like Clay H. Buddy Bazell or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother, like very much is like not. He doesn't present as Southern. He went to Penn. He went to Boston University for his PhD. He's a scientist. But like growing up, his name is William, and we call him Will or Bo. Like he was Bo, and it's like that's so Southern.
It's very Southern. Yeah.
And it's
like
just
Tennessee Williams Southern.
Yeah. So yeah,
We had that, and then there also was a sign. I noticed. I didn't realize they put a sign up for these people. I might have told this story in the pod, but I know I've told it on the pod a couple times. We had a 3-day weekend in high school because these two guys shot these two cops at my school, and the parents of my friend, it was one of his dads and his uncle, and so they thought they were holed up in our high school. So like they were like,
okay, so there's a reason. It was like a celebration. 3-day weekend sounded like you got the day off.
It, in a way, people didn't like that. It was a weird thing. It was like overall a strong anti-police sentiment in my little part, because there was like its own little.
That's also true in parts of the South, like much stronger anti-cop sentiment than the North.
Well, yeah, and this story especially is absolutely buck wild, and someone should do a whole Netflix making a murder thing on it. But they actually got off for it because it was self-defense, because the cops went to their house and tried to kill him, which is fucking crazy because it was also. Yeah, it was, but it was like an old little mini civil war in my town, because my high school was a small one, like south of the river, and then there was the north of the river. So it was like even there was like a river, like all the. It
was like a high school movie, like North High, South High.
It literally was, except it just with moonshine and dead police, and also they wouldn't deliver pizzas south of the river because they kept getting robbed, all the drivers and stuff, and yeah, allegedly, that's all alleged. Everything I say is always alleged. Yeah. I don't know where so this has been the Atlanta and sports team.
We can talk more about the movies. We can say, well, I'll stay on topic.
No, it's not. I love, honestly, in the midst of like Paul, I love you are expressly political on TikTok, which I like. And the thing I appreciate, like the stuff about, like, I don't have another way of catching up on like the Philly trash union strike, but I've been sort of following it through your videos, which is cool. So no, I'm happy to do it. Honestly, the goal with this is, I want to put my name in for the leftist Joe Rogan, because that's the thing after the election, right? Like we need a leftist Joe Rogan. So it's movies, but I'd rather, in my notes here, I have Philly v. Chicago, Atlanta, Law Librarian.
I do love Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago's like, everyone in Philadelphia. Yeah, so everyone in Philadelphia, they're like, if I didn't live in Philadelphia, I would live in Chicago, and I've kind of adopted this. I'm like, this is what it's my second city of my heart. Philly is great. So the thing that Philly has on Chicago is the Northeast Corridor, like the Amtrak system, like your ability to travel again to go to Rangers games, like much easier in Philadelphia. Like we're in the center. This is DC, New York, Boston, like right there.
Okay.
And so
can I be like a white ethnic? Like that's kind of my like. I realize I'm out of time because I should have been just like an old like 1950s. I should have been Mr. Turner, like the Mr. Turner guys that are still eating like cheesesteaks and like just being kind of like, that's what I need to be. Like not like fully white, but a white. That's what I need. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like very strong, like Irish. Like people I meet will still tell me whether they're Irish or Italian. Like they'll lead with that. I'm like, I'm from the South. You're Catholic. Like that's like you're just Catholic.
God.
like I don't know.
Yeah, you're both going to hell. Yeah,
right,
you're both put here by the evil papacy.
Irish and Italian Catholic. I'm like, this is like a movie. I don't understand. But the people will lead with that as part of their identity. And yeah, like South Philly is for like the Italian market. Like there are guys like who I speak Italian with when I go buy my groceries. So that very much exists.
Oh, you're learning Italian, right?
Yeah. So I'm taking Italian classes right now, which is like the light of my life. I will endorse anyone taking a second language as an adult. It is my favorite thing I do all week. I mean, I'm taking Italian mostly to read Italian literature and watch Italian movies.
I'm glad we watched, but this was a Bergamo dialect.
Yes, this dialect fascinated
the tree
me.
Of wooden clogs, we're saying.
So I read a little bit about it. So it's Gallo Italian, so it's very French inspired, and like sort of Gallic languages inspired. And so it's different. Like there were some words that I could hear that I was like, oh, that's definitely a different word. But I mean, Italian language is, they call it il dialetto, as far as like the concept of like, Italian language is not particularly structured. Like French has like that governing body of like, this is what French is. And so even if they're regional dialects, there's the sense that there's like regional dialects, but you also speak French. And like German has like, but I can't remember the German word for German, but my brother lives in Germany, and Deutsche. Yeah. So it's like High German versus casual German is very different. In Italy, a lot of Italians don't speak Italian. Like they speak their regional dialect and exclusively that. And it's sometimes they have mutual intelligibility, and sometimes it's very different. Like a lot of people who in my Italian classes are Sicilian, because a lot of Sicilian immigrants came to the East Coast of the United States, and like they'll also be like, oh, my grandmother says this, and it's like, as someone who does not speak Sicilian or Italian, I'm like, oh, those are so different. Like I can't even figure out how they would be the same language. So this
French
is
too, right? Was like
like
French only as late as like 1880. I think like only 15% of people spoke French as their primary language at home, or something.
Yes,
crazy.
but I think French I think got its like standardization much earlier than Italian. So like because of the Risorgimento, like I like TV is the thing that is given as the reason why Italians, like people who now live in Italy grow up speaking Italian, is because of TV. That it's not until people have TVs in their home that Italian becomes really standardized.
Everything goes back to the Risorgimento.
Yes, and so it's like because it's like France is a national identity much longer than Italian.
Gotcha.
So like the il dialetto is like, it's this like concept we talk about it in Italian class all the time. It's like, yeah, you're learning Italian, but also like and you'll speak Italian to people, and people who are young enough will speak it back to you. But like if you're in a shop in the south of Italy, they're going to talk about it. And we talk a lot about like what verb tenses people tend to use, and you can sort of ascribe cultural values to like which past tense they use, and it's based mostly on Tuscan. Is the proper Italian is based on Tuscan because of Dante and Petrarch, and so that's sort of the center of like proper Italian. But I think another distinction between Italian and French, based on my sort of casual learning of it, is that in French, like when you're speaking a regional dialect, it's like it's wrong. Like you're not speaking proper French. Well, like in Italian, it's more like this is Italian, and then this is your dialect, and they are different, and like it's much more spoken about much more neutrally than my sense of like French, which is very restricted in like how new words come in or how grammar works.
They're trying to as a fellow you said you were an art history major, but as a I was gonna say as a writing, I love my linguistic classes. They're very prescriptive. I remember like they're trying to make the example when we were learning like prescriptivism versus descriptivism in like linguistics is that the French Academy or whatever is trying to do like don't say un email, it's like you have to say un message électronique or something. They're like trying to like, but people were like, it's a fucking un email, that's like you can't control language like that.
Yeah, I don't think Italy has like a governing body like that, like France does. And then also, I mean, so my Italian professor, he always says like, we'll ask him like, well, what are you going to hear? And he's like, well, this has a different flavor. He's like, this has different. He talks about the different meanings that are imbibed when you have.
That's a
like
very Italian metaphor.
Yes,
that's like the most
un gusto. So yeah, a different flavor. And so yeah, it's much more casual. So yeah, Bergamasque. There were some words that I could catch, but there was like I noticed even like they talk about the tomatoes, which in Italian is pomodoro, but they call them tomati, which I've never heard in Italian. I've never heard. I don't know which dialects call them tomati, and I was like, I meant to look it up. Like I was like, where did that come from? It's like, why are they calling them tomati? But of course, also famously, Italians like we think of tomatoes as Italian, but really they're a much later introduction into Italian cuisine because they come from America. So that makes sense that like they maybe use the other origin. But pomodoro is like the golden apple is the origin of the word. And so the tomato, they take that, or tomati, they take that from somewhere else.
Interesting. It's always weird thinking about, because I grew up eating, my aunts and my grandpa on my dad's side of the family all grew up around a bunch of Italians. So a lot of them married Italians in Jersey. So I just grew up eating Italian food. And it's weird. Just when you brought that up, it's just weird to think about they didn't have tomatoes till like the 17th century or something like that.
Yeah, like Leonardo da Vinci never ate a tomato. Like
that's crazy.
They were eating like not pizza either, because that's also like a later invention. Because pizza's like coming from, I think, China. It's like Marco Polo and all the like the noodles and all that stuff comes to Italy through the passage. But yeah, the cuisine, I was like Tuscan food. So I studied abroad in Florence. I mean, I love Tuscan food. I love Italian food. But like, because it's Italian, Italy is very like regional. When I was in Tuscany, like all I wanted was like hyper salty things because like they didn't put salt and stuff. Like their bread is unsalted because you buy it every day fresh. And so you don't need the salt to preserve it. So I was like, I was like craving salt. The other things I craved were pudding, like chocolate pudding. It was like there's nothing is like chocolate pudding. Because they don't really eat chocolatey desserts.
That is
it's
the
like
strangest.
a lot of like pastries.
Were you pregnant while you were over there? That's like.
I just was eating like the same thing over and over of like the
But
same.
why pudding? That's just like a.
I don't know, because I guess it was just like there's nothing else like I didn't have anything like that. Like I wasn't eating anything that was that texture or anything, but it's very very homogenous like in the regions. And also like because I was in Tuscany, it was like all Tuscan food. So there was like stuff that like I associate with Italian foods, like Sicilian or
like Olive Garden, right?
Right,
Sure.
or like bolognese. Like all these things are from different places of Italy. And like when you would go to a nice restaurant in Tuscany, it's like you get Tuscan food because that's like what we grow here. Or like it is also very
Rome
seasonal.
has the pastas, right? It has like the four like the royal pastas, not the royal pastas, but they have like carbonara and it's like the classic ones, aglio olio, and I love making
the carbonara. That's also like Italians love to like native Italian. They love to like claim things are very old, but it's like we know when this thing was invented. Like carbonara, like that's like a World War II thing. Yeah. Like and like tiramisu is the other one where they're like, oh, this is like there's like this anecdote about it's like a food. So tiramisu, the phrase comes from it's equivalent. It's like to a pick me up, and so it's like it's like blancmange, which is a huge historical romance snack. Blancmange is incredibly dull. Okay. It's like unflavored pudding. People are always eating blancmange in a historical romance. But tiramisu is like that, where it's like, again, like the pudding is sort of like unflavored, and then you have like you add the coffee and the chocolate and the ladyfingers. But tiramisu means pick me up, but it's like, oh, it's like a sick person's food because people who are sick eat this like bland pudding. But also the story of tiramisu is that it was invented in a brothel, and so like pick me up has a different meaning all of a sudden. But also like we know tiramisu was invented in the 20th century, but any Italian will be like, it wasn't. It's older than that. It was like we know the recipe.
No,
like they're
I'm with them. I'm not with you, Emma. I'm sorry.
So
yeah, no chance.
They were probably eating some sort of version of blancmange, but tiramisu
I did
as
want, what was the thing they had in Mr. Turner? The Jell-O. I wanted the big Jell-O pineapple. Like they had like this whole stack of Jell-O food in there.
The aspects of it all. This is we've lost the culture of aspects.
Is that what is an aspect?
So an aspect is a jelly.
Okay.
So this is a big thing through the 1950s of like aspect is like the things that are most notorious for aspects are the meat jellies. Okay. But I think aspect can be anything because the way that you make jelly is with like gelatin from bones. And
God, I'm gonna need to get you like your Instagram or something because I'm gonna just need to text you while I'm watching these old movies and just be like, what is this?
So aspect is a jelly, but jelly was made from gelatin and bones. Before you can buy like pre-made Jell-O, you would get you make them from jelly, so they were much more likely to be savory because you'd be boiling bones to make the jelly. But an aspic, I think, is any sort of old-fashioned homemade jelly. I don't think they're necessarily savory, but the recipes that are the most notorious are the savory ones. Because an American in 2025 is like, why are you eating meat Jell-O? What?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a big scoop of that pineapple, whatever it was. But I love all those pies and everything. I'd never had a meat pie until I was like older, and I was like, I love them.
Cornish pasty.
Yeah, delicious.
Cornish pasty is also a big romance food. They love to get a Cornish pasty.
I'm going to need a list of all these. This was, so I did want to show you this, because I'm just moving down my notes now, but this was the shirt. Had I known, so a couple years ago, there was like people were doing these shirts on, like they post a shirt on Twitter or something, and all these like companies, like these fly by night would like have bots that would like get the image of the shirt and then do their own shirt. So people just started making like this in the hopes that Disney would sue them, like that they would start selling Disney merchandise. So I bought one of these, and I would have worn it, but I really, now I feel bad for not. But this used to be like one of my favorite shirts. I don't think Disney's ever sued them. I don't know whatever happened to all these shirt companies, but
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Disney very litigious. I mean, they are always lobbying for our copyrights to be longer, so that Mickey Mouse stays in copyright.
Yeah, unfortunate, because I think it's like 1930 is like the year now, right? It's like the movies and night. So like in 5 years, it'd be like we're starting to get into like some pretty classic movies. Yeah, like in 10 years, it'd be Gone with the Wind, right? 1939 or something.
Yeah, so we'll see. copyright movies is fascinating because like copyright is like my high horse on the internet. I don't know if you've ever seen any of my videos that I make about copyright because nobody understands copyright on the internet. Because nobody understands IP law on the internet because it's complicated. And the origins of different copyright or different intellectual property protection laws.
This is not legal advice.
They're not legal advice, but I will tell anyone this. The origins of IP laws are different. And so like copyright comes from the Constitution. The origin of the copyright law is in the Constitution. Other laws are by statute. And so like trademark is established by statute. And so people will often conflate trademark and copyright. It's like they have totally different bodies of case law because one of them comes from the Constitution and one comes from a statute. And like in common law system, which we are in, the things that are relevant to you are in like a line of laws. Like they have to be relevant to each other. And nobody understands fair use on the internet.
I don't. Do the companies understand fair use? Because I got knock on wood. The one frigging strike I got my channel. I've been wondering. I've been like dreading it. The one strike I got my channel was I had to take down all my videos on Singing in the Rain. I'm probably even going to strike this. I don't even want to talk about it. But like you get to appeal. I don't know if you've had this on TikTok, but or whatever. You get to appeal. And I appealed it, and I looked up the thing of fair use, and I was like, with it's like 4 characteristics of fair use, right?
Yes.
Of like
the four non-dispositive elements all weighted equally.
Yeah, and I was like, the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of a commercial nature or is for nonprofit or educational, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to copyrighted work as a whole, and the effective use on the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. And I was like, 1 is commentary, like 2, I'm compressing a movie into a TikTok, like the amount I'm using like clips that I specifically, it's like no more than 2 minutes of it, and 4, I'm encouraging people to watch the fucking movie. So how is this not fair use?
Okay, I will explain the fair use elements.
Not legal advice, but
not illegal advice, but this is my favorite thing to explain on the internet because no one understands that.
Okay.
First off, people conflate trademark fair use and copyright fair use because there is trademark fair use and there's copyright fair use. Fair use from trademark, and they're totally unrelated. Fair use by trademark specifically has to do with it has to do with I'm being confusing. I'm applying the second sale doctrine. Let's leave trademark out of this for a second.
Yeah.
It's copyright. So the 4 elements, they're all non-dispositive. So they're all supposed to be weighted against each other. And so that means that people will on the internet will say this is fair use because you're not making money off of it. This is fair use because you're an educator. This is fair use because like you clipped it or you didn't use all of it. Even if you win on one element, you have to consider the other 3. That's the nature of the way that the test is written. The other thing is that no one has fair use. No one has fair use until a judge says you have fair use because it is a affirmative defense, like self-defense. Like you can't walk around being like, I have self-defense. I have self-defense. You have self-defense when the judge determines that you were being attacked and you responded with a proportional amount of harm. So no one has fair use until a judge says you have fair use. This is an extreme disadvantage to creators like yourself because MGM can say that's copyright infringement, and you do not have the means to take it to a federal court and say like, actually, this is fair use because I'm not.
You'll
making
do
money
pro bono work for me, right? Like that's.
I'm not barred in the federal court.
Okay, well, you could, I have faith in you. Yeah.
So they're also the test is fact determinate, or so it's like you can't look at precedent and be like, this is the exact same circumstances because it's a holistic test. So what the judge does is looks at every factor of both MGM's interest in Singing in the Rain, your interest in Singing in the Rain, how you used it, what you clipped. Like things could be very, very similar and be different because they're in front of a different judge on a different day. It's all fact determinate. And so it's very useful. But it drives me crazy when people are like, well, this is fair use. I'm like, you're not a federal judge. You don't know that.
Yeah, I'm affirmatively, non-dispositively saying, though, that it's like my thing passes the 4 tests, but then there's some nameless someone at TikTok or whatever that's like...
Yes, so what TikTok does is that they are aggressive in favor of the companies. And like what you could... theoretically, what you could do is you could then say... You could say you have a defense to us. You would have to, basically, I mean, it's like you would have to say you'd have to go to court and say like I could look for an injunction
over a video, over a small
right. You wish you wouldn't do, but it's just
and it'd have to be like work by work, right? Because each of my TikTok videos is a work, right?
Yes,
so it's like I'm going to TikTok to defend a 1-minute video on Singing in the Rain that I think is passes the 4 tests.
I think people with copyright, there's like an intuition about like what is copyrightable, and it's not what is copyrightable. So what is copyrightable is expression, not ideas. Ideas are not copyrightable. And so this happens in like book spaces a lot. People like books will be very similar to each other, and they're like, well, that's copyright, sue them. It's like, if the ideas are similar, you can't sue them. That's not copyrightable. The ideas are not copyrightable. Only expression. And so a big thing that is like very counterintuitive when you take a copyright law class is there are lots of cases about visual art appearing in the background of television. Like this is something that is copyright infringement because the whole piece of the art is appearing, and that's the entire expression of the art. And so even though it's like incidental viewing and like no one would like watch the show, like there's a case about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where there's a painting in the background. That's the one I remember. Nobody's watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air opposed to buying the painting. Like that's not the thing. But because it's the entire work in full in the background, like it doesn't have fair use, and it's copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Also, basically, like fair.
You're gonna need to get barred in federal court because I'm gonna keep making videos.
When you have
I need help.
Fair use, you are copyright. That's the other thing. People think, oh, you have fair use, so it's not copyright infringement. Actually, it's like self-defense. Like self-defense is a defense to murder, but it doesn't mean you didn't commit the murder. You did copyright infringe. You just have fair use, which is a defense. So it's an affirmative defense.
Okay.
Well, yeah, don't admit anything.
Never talk to
again,
cops.
Not
never
legal
talk to
advice,
lawyers.
but like don't admit anything. Like, of course, like if I were a lawyer, I'd be like, well, first off, he didn't copyright infringe, but if he did copyright infringe, he has fair use. That's how you would make the legal argument.
Do you get into the same thing like when I guess like do your friends or people ever like gently make fun of you for that? Because we make fun of my dad for that. Where like, you know, if he doesn't like a movie, I'll be like, well, did you like the movie? And I'd be like, well. And he'll start going. He'll give the lawyer everything. Yeah. It's like, well, it's from a point of view, and
well, I mean, so my sister is also in law school. She just graduated, and so we kind of like amp each other up. And we're the only 2 lawyers in our family, and that's like going home for Thanksgiving. It's like no one's getting a word in edgewise. Or like we're gonna win this argument. But also, I work with almost all lawyers, and so there's some moments because I work in a library who's all law library, and so there'll be moments where I'm like, I'll look around and be like, oh my god, we all went to law school, and like you can just tell like in how we make our decisions.
My dad played in a lawyer basketball league, which I always thought I would have given any amount of money to see that because like the foul argument of like did you like oh my god you fouled me, and then it's like well actually but. He said there were constant.
Oh, this happens a lot on the internet where I make a lot of videos mostly about libraries. Like because I don't want to give legal advice because I'm barred in Georgia. I don't live in Georgia. Like I don't have also like what I was trained to be in law school was like a criminal defense attorney. So I'm very cautious about like what my expertise is versus like I don't want to speak on it. I
definitely need to know you.
I don't want to speak on it like out of turn to have someone take legal advice. So I mostly talk about libraries on TikTok. But frequently people will come to me on TikTok as if they're speaking to a librarian and not. I'm like. I'm a lawyer. Like my core is a lawyer. I was like, you're coming for me in a way that you don't realize what you're entering into as far as like my willingness to argue with you. Like I'll keep going. Like and I'll win because I won't lose.
Yeah, it explains a lot. Like in when I would tell like people that my dad was a defense lawyer that went to Oberlin. It's like, oh, okay, that explains, I've definitely. You also definitely in law school you get sort of like prosecution or defense minded, like that you sort of have a way of thinking. And I immediately when I was in law school, I was like, oh, defense. Like I want to poke holes in things. I want to find the one. And this is my thing all the time. Like when I'm arguing with people, I'm like, I take the position often that I'm like, I don't have to prove myself right. I have to prove you wrong. And this is like my favorite like rhetorical position to be in. And I'm like, I win because you're wrong. Like I fact checked you. And it's an unattractive quality. Yeah. I mean, it's entertaining if you're for the viewers,
But I have to keep up my skills because mostly what I'm doing is like helping people research like at law and in libraries. That's like I keep my skills sharp.
Well, I added another thing that you could help me with. So if you want to be like the official legal representative or maybe I don't know. I want to be the judge because I've always wanted to be a judge because I feel like I'm very judge coded. There's no evidence for that. But I want to do a show. Been thinking about doing no one has a judge show on TikTok. I'm probably gonna cut this out because of how much I like the idea. Okay. No one has a judge show on TikTok. Like there's no Judge Joe Brown or like Judge Judy or like anything like that. I want to be a judge. I want to start a judge show of just.
What are you gonna adjudicate?
Autism in social circumstances and not vague social vagaries that and honestly even in historical stuff you should do a historical court. That would be great for the thing of like who's in the wrong or who's in the right because it'd be like you know, if someone says like, you know, okay, good example. Hypothetical. This is gonna be fun because I'm gonna cut out all the part about the idea, but I'm just gonna launch into. Okay. So let's say I help. Let's say I help you move. You ask me like, you know, for help or whatever, and I help you move to a new apartment or house or whatever. How long? Now let's say now it's 5 years have gone past, and I say, hey, remember when I helped you move? And we've sort of fallen out of touch. Hey, can you come up and help me move in 3 Saturdays from now? Ethical or not ethical, or who's in the right there? I think that's like a decaying favor, right? Because it's like, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do I still live near you? Like, do we still live near each other? Like, how is it less convenient for me to help you move than it was for you to help me move?
Let's say you moved, and I'll say you moved from being 15 minutes away to being an hour away, and that's part of the reason our friendship deteriorated. Okay. Because, you know, it's just more inconvenient. So
and you helped me unpack as well? You didn't just help me load up the truck?
Oh, that's a good example.
Right.
That's a great question.
Did you help me on the side that was convenient to you, or did you do the thing that is harder and go for it with me?
You should be a lawyer on the show.
I need the facts.
Yeah, you could be an advocate on the show.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll set you up as one of the lawyers. You'll be like Iron Chef. If you can be, that'd be, okay. This is it'd be like Iron Chef where, you could be like because that's great. I feel like if you helped me move, then it decays longer. Because that's a much bigger favor. If you both help load the truck and help unload, that's a huge favor.
Yeah, like I feel like, it's like I would go out of my way. Like, so I just moved and we had people, so we moved from the suburbs to the city, but my sister and I loaded up our truck in the suburbs and we had people in the city help us unpack. And so it's like, that felt like, and so like I bought them beer and I was like, okay, I bought you beer. Like we got beers together afterwards and like beers and ice cream. And it was like, okay, like, and we were on the 4th floor. So that also adds a factor, but it goes so much faster when like there are 5 people unmoving boxes opposed to 2, like just fewer trips.
So what would the law be? Because my brother helped me move in on the 5th floor of an apartment in New York. And that's a big favor because it's, 5 walk up, 5th floor brownstone walk up.
I mean, I'm like very slutty with my favors. Like I'm like, give out favors. Like,
well, you're trying to convince a jury of neutral. Like, how would you say to the? Yeah.
I mean, I would say that it's like you help people. I think you help people assuming that help is not going to be returned. But it's like both you did that for me, and like I'm in a position where like I can help you. It's like I will also help you. It's not a tit for tat.
You're a very giving friend.
Right. Yeah. But also it's like that's the position that I'm in. But I think if someone was not in that position and they said no, they couldn't do it. Like that, you can't hold it against them.
Would you feel miffed? At what point would you feel miffed? Like if you help someone move, Emma.
I don't know if I would feel miffed. I don't
a week later, if you help someone move and then you said, "Hey, could you help me move?" Would you feel miffed at all? If they said, "No, I can't," and you didn't feel they had a good reason?
No, I think you could establish before. If a week later, you should establish beforehand. Like, hey, like, can we exchange?
What about a month?
Maybe that's. I think actually the closer thing is what's harder for me. I think the closer.
What if they helped you? What if you help them for like 10 hours and then it gets 2 hours in and they leave? Like it's like I can only do it. I'm tired. I had a rough day, and then they leave after 2 hours or something. But you were there the whole day. Miffed?
No, because I chose to be there the whole day. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
I think you're a much more evolved person than me. Then all these things I'd be miffed.
I hate tit for tat thing. I also feel this way about picking up the check. This is like my big high horse. Is that like I don't have people Venmo me. I don't split checks. Like I put my card down and then I'm like, and it's like I am friends with people who the next time that we go out, they will put the card down. And it's like that is very important to me in friendships. Is that I'm friends with people and close with people who don't do that. Because I hate nickel and diming like in relationships, and so I'm like. I usually when I hang out with someone, I will put the card down first. And I'm also very aware of like my sort of like socioeconomic position versus some of my friends. Some of my friends, I always put the card down.
For sure.
But then it's like and so I'm like, if like we're sort of equal footing, I'm like, we will like, you'll buy the concert tickets, I'll buy the dinner, or like I'll, or it's just like, if I'm going to travel to see you, I'll buy the dinner, but you'll buy the thing for the event. Like it's a sort of like, I sort of keep in mind, like, and if I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, like, maybe there'll be a conversation or like, oh, we're just not going to be friends who do things that cost money together.
I think you're too evolved for the show. We'll have you out as an advocate, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, if I was defending someone, I could like adopt their worldview to.
Maybe you'd be
them.
A better judge though, because I'd immediately say like, oh, this person's a motherfucker. I'd be like, hey, this person's in the wrong. If they didn't help him move, I mean, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, in that scenario, I do think the closer date is actually harder for me to decide. The longer date, I'm like, you can't hold the grudge for 5 years. Like or you can't even hold on to that as a favor. That's not.
But that's why I need to help with the rules, because there's the fair use like the non-dispositive whatever. I can't do those rules. So what are the rules? Like 6 months? Like I want to know where the, if you math-wise, if you drew it like a chart.
I would say like
myth to non-myth.
In Philadelphia, you have to give 90 days notice for your lease. So it's like that. I would say like 3 months, because that's the period in which like you could have arranged like, let's do this tit for tat situation. And so like 3 months feels like that's already a timeline that's established in like moving circumstances. 3 months, that's the time when you know that you're going to be moving. So I feel like that's probably the tipping point for me.
3 months is pretty good.
It's also based in other cultural norms of like, when do you give notice for moving? Mm-hmm. So it's in line with like our precedent.
Okay. You're citing precedent. You're citing Municipal, Philadelphia.
Yeah. So maybe it also could be, it's probably, I would say Municipal, when we go to area, like that would be the level of government that we're at. I would look to Municipal area, like certain cultures, certain areas of the country probably have different social codes based on. You're
back on the show. We'll have you on to give the official, like the sane person's rundown. Because ideally, I'm just having a jury of insane people, and then
this is my role on Reformed Rakes too. I both do all of the legal stuff for our podcast, business wise, but also on the podcast, I'll come in and be like, "Hey, like my co-host will be like, kill people," and I'm like, "Don't do that, please."
Allegedly, yeah.
But also, I explain like the law and the history, and the history of criminal law is really interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of criminal law, I have to go celebrate July 4th and hopefully not blow up anything with fireworks. I don't think there's going to be fireworks. I hope there's not fireworks. I'm not a big fireworks person. But I do want to do a recommendation. Thank you so much for coming on, obviously.
Thank you for suggesting this movie. I don't know if I would have watched it without your rec.
Yeah, likewise. Honestly, I probably would have watched many, but you just, like, ladies out there, if you want this man, there's me, there's my brother, my other brother's in a relationship. If you're gay, then my close friend is a gay Mr. Turner. So you got your choice of 2 straight Mr. Turners and a gay Mr. Turner.
No, Timothy Spall is like exactly like, so if you want to have a crush on Timothy Spall, I highly recommend, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie.
I'm trying to get people to have a crush on me, Emma. That's not.
Okay, I'm just saying, like again,
I don't need more competition.
I'm selling people. They're not going to date Timothy Spall. He lives in England and I think is married. But like again, if you're getting on board, you're selling this. So life is sweet. He is an incredibly fun boyfriend in that movie. He wears a crazy hat. Just so enjoyable. Again, we have to overcome the Peter Pettigrew thing. Like, and so I'm gonna I gotta build that up.
I'm not a rodent. I would trans. What is it? Transmogrify? What do they do in Harry Potter? It's I've been speaking out of my depth here with Harry Potter. This is not my fandom. Whatever you transmute, shapeshift. I would not be a rat like Peter Pettigrew. I would be. Okay. I can't. Obviously because of her anti-trans stuff. No thanks anymore. I'm done with her. I think I'd be a house cat. What would your animal be? I think I'd be a house cat.
I don't know. I've honestly never thought about it because I know people.
You have an animal?
I mean, I like animals.
Did you not live? Did you live like Redwall as a kid? Do you remember those ones? Or I guess you didn't read fantasy.
No, yeah, mostly when I read as a kid, I read a lot of like. Honestly, I got really into like adult literature pretty quickly. I'm
shocked.
I like my favorite author in high school was like Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Like I was really into magic realism.
I could not think of 2 more opposite like childhoods. It seems like
I watched old
Gabriel
movies
Garcia Marquez.
and I read a lot of like 19th century Bildungsromans about girls who wanted to be writers, like Anna Green Gables, Little Women, She Goes in Brooklyn. Like I
graduated behind a kid who was illiterate in GPA wise. I think I had a 2.9. He had like a 3.1. He was also illiterate, but he was going to work for the county, so that's what they did with illiterate kids in my school. If like they were going to work for the county, they just sent him off to mow the field all day. I wasn't golf cart. Gabriel in high school? It's crazy.
Yeah, I got really into magic realism. I don't remember what like set me on that journey, but I just like really into like Love in the Time of Cholera and stuff. But
nice.
I'm not saying I had good grades in high school. I'm just saying I read a lot.
No, you're just a nerd. Yeah, no, I was also. I mean, I was just playing World of Warcraft and I was reading Game of Thrones and Harry Potter and like fantasy. I liked fantasy stuff back then, which is cool. I liked. It was my dream to adapt Game of Thrones for like a TV show. That was before they made the TV show.
I was like, you could have made $1 million.
I know, I could have made $1 million, but yeah, I was like, this would be, because I had seen like Sopranos and The Wire. This was like 2009. I was like, this would be so good as an HBO show, and then they made it as an HBO show, which was pretty good. Did a lot of things well. Okay, Rex. For recommendations, if you like these movies, I would say for you, Deception, 1947. You might have seen it. Betty Davis. Yeah. The Earrings of Madame Day. Have you seen that one?
Favorite? Oh my God. Favorite. I love Max Ophuls. I love that movie.
I think you're way more well watched on me than classic movies, so this is going to be hard.
It is so... Oh, that movie is so good.
So do...
One of Martin Scorsese's favorites.
Yeah, along with The Leopard as well, which is another one. Definitely, yeah. Leopard I was like good on. I just like hanging out. It reminded me of Giant, and I just love kind of hanging out in that world. I didn't like it as much as Giant, but the kind of nothing happens. You get to look at Elaine Delon and Burt Lancaster, Yeah.
Highly recommend the book. It's incredibly funny, kind of like also written by a conservative about conservatism in a way that it's like biting, but also like you can sort of have like a very Marxist take on it.
I was
like
weirded
Leo Tolstoy.
Yeah, I was weirded out. Not weirded out, but I was confused why they had Burt Lancaster in The Leopard, because like there's like Italy in that time was full of old horny men, and they had to import an old horny guy to play this role, and I was like,
much more common in the 1960s to have people just lipped up. Like I mean, Alain Delon is speaking French in his role, and they just dub him.
Yeah,
and, like
Fellini with Broderick Crawford and
the spaghetti westerns. Just much more common. And
Fellini movies, Anthony Quinn and Lestrada and all that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that is the movie The White Sheik. Have you seen The White Sheik? I've
not seen The White Sheik.
Okay, that is the one. I'm glad I can do at least one rec for you
that
you haven't seen, because The White Sheik is a Fellini movie that is it's in Italian, and it's about a woman who travels with her husband to Rome, where she abandons him to go find to go try and look for the hero of her romance novels. So it is like squarely probably for you in terms of its
chic
Italian.
Romance is like a big thing from the 1920s and 30s.
Yeah, the white chic, and they're supposed to have like an audience with the Pope, and like it's about like they're both sort of like anxious. They had just gotten married. They're sort of like anxious about moving into the next step of their journey in life. But it's very, very funny because she goes off and things aren't. It's just very like the construction of romance novels and all this. So. Definitely recommend. Then Catch Me If You Can. Randomly.
I've seen. Yeah, I watched it ages ago. I need to rewatch it.
I wanted to ask you: do you think I could pass the bar with 2 weeks of studying like you did in the movie?
No.
Okay. What if you know the real story behind that? He actually did it over and over.
Okay, I think you could pass the bar with just doing bar prep.
Okay.
I think you would need 12 weeks at least.
Okay.
I'll try it. I think some people could pass the bar with just bar prep, but not going to law school, because law
I'd
school
love to be able to sue people. That would be so fun.
It doesn't really prepare you for the bar. You have to do bar prep afterwards, and I think if you did bar prep, I think some people would have a chance of passing the bar. But in 2 weeks is it's just too much information. I think unless you're like have a preternatural ability to remember things, but also I mean you do have to there is cognitive sort of understanding that has to change. So I think 3 months people could do it.
Well, it's interesting. Catch Me If You Can, if you haven't seen an audience about a scam artist guy. He in the movie, it's like I studied for 2 weeks and I did it. But in reality, what he did is he just kept taking it over and over, just refining his answer, because there's no penalty to it and there's no time limit.
There is a penalty now. So in some states, you can only take it a certain number of times. So
gotcha.
But you can always just keep moving states, especially if you're a con artist.
Yeah, absolutely, which I am. My cousin Rachel, Daphne du Maurier, we just watched that for the pod. Great movie, Olivia de Havilland. And you've given a bunch. But I think the ones I've wrote down, what is it? Strawberry Blonde, It's Love I'm After, Roman Holiday, Breaking Away, Life is Sweet, and War and Peace. And
yes. Yeah. So War and Peace, I do have some other recommendations specifically for these two movies, please. If people like them. So La Chimera, have you seen this movie, La Chimera? It's newer.
Goodness, yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Alice
La Chimera.
The movie, oh my goodness. It's a great recommendation.
So I think La Chimera,
one of the best movies
of
the last 5 years.
I'll send you what I wrote about La Chimera for my Substack, because I think you would really like it. It's about Italian language. But atmospheric, beautiful, con artist, steel. I think also so Alice Rohrwacher, the director, the Criterion has special features. There's a panel that she moderated with the cast of The Tree of Wooden Clogs that I recommend on Criterion, and she just talks about how important this movie is to her, like filming. In spaces in Italy, which I think is a big difference between these two movies, where The Tree of the Wooden Clogs is a period piece that can be filmed outside and in, because it's just the nature of Italy is that you can't you can recreate the 19th century pretty easily. I mean, there are a lot of location shots in Mr. Turner, but some of it is very obviously like a studio, like at the outside streets in London. So I think Alicia Roywacker, one of my favorite current working directors. So yeah,
she's great. I've only seen La Chimera, but yeah, the only people
Lazaro,
making
she loves like period pieces, and like what she does with like recent history is so fascinating. La Chimera, I mean, just my favorite movie of the decade. I mean, I love it so much.
Absolutely.
The other movie I think people might like, so Gosford Park, I think like multiple narratives, again, that sort of like conservatism. So that's Robert Altman, director, but Julian Fellowes wrote it. Also Gilded Age guy in Downton Abbey, and that sort of like conservatism, looking back and critiquing an era that is ending. I feel like that's apparent in Mr. Turner. Mike Leigh is capital R Republican in England and very socialist. So Julian Fellowes is coming at English culture from a different angle, but I think this critique of the aristocracy is there. And then a sort of a wild card is A Little Princess, the children's movie. So this is the one from 1995, which is directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which kind of a wild card for him to direct.
Harry
but
Potter
it's an adaptation
3.
Of it's the best Harry Potter movie, honestly.
Absolutely.
I can't believe we talked about Harry Potter so much, but
children and them too. Yeah,
it is an adaptation of the novel, but the novel set takes place in England, but this takes place in America. It's transported to America, and it's a really interesting look at like World War One. It's like a World War One movie. This girl's father is in World War One, and then he dies, and she's at a girls' school. And her father dies in World War One, and then her circumstances change very dramatically. She's once was very wealthy; she's the wealthiest student at the school, and then her father's money stopped coming. So then she's now an orphan. She now works at the school, and it deals with like race. There's a black girl that is another servant at the school. It also has like but it's kind of bizarre relationship to India that I think is interesting in how it deals with race in one way and then sort of collapses race context in the other, as far as like a colonial movie, because the little girl was raised in India and she has this she's like this exoticism being from India, but she's not Indian, she's white. But also like a incredibly moving father-daughter story. Liam Cunningham, Sir Davos from Game of Thrones, is the dad. And it, like the first guy I ever had a crush on is the dad of this movie. He is so handsome.
Okay.
But I think, again, dealing with that like period piece and sort of transformation of circumstances, I think applies to both of the films that we talked about today. And just like stunning movie. Like, I don't remember the cinematographer. It's someone who's, so Emmanuel Lubezki, who I think worked with Cuarón a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So like Gravity, like he did that, and also this like children's movie that is just great.
He's great. Yeah, tremendous guy. I also finally found the name, the Cousin Jules, the documentary. If you just want Tree of Wood and Clogs, but it's a documentary. I saw it's about just these two old people, and all they do, it's just two old people living in rural France, and it just follows them for like an hour and a half, and that's it. It just shows them blacksmithing, farming.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's you would if you like Tree of Wood and Clogs, it's like a real version of that. It's like,
have you seen Il Buco, the Italian documentary? It's about. So. It's not a documentary. Oh, it's not a documentary actually, but it kind of has a documentary sort of style. But it's about this hole in Italy and this discovery of this cave in Italy.
Sounds good.
But it's like there's no, all the dialogue in it is overheard, so you're just like watching people in this like southern.
Slow cinema.
Very southern, yes. And it's very, very, very beautiful. Recommend that. I think it was 2022 or 3.
And the last one would be Bellatar. I don't know if you watch any Bellatar, but like the Horse of Turin.
Oh yeah, this is like on my list of something that like I need to be like ready for. Like, but like is often in people who like I respect a lot, like their top 10. The Horse of Turin.
Yeah, Horse of Turin's good. This other one, hopefully I don't ruin my whole stack here. I think I recommended it last time, but the Werkmeister Harmonies is really, I liked it even better. But there's like a 12-minute shot of just a truck pulling up to the thing, so impossibly slow. But yeah, we'll have to get you back on, honestly, for War and Peace, since you spent time writing
War and
it.
Peace. Yes, the Sergei Bondarchuk movie is, I think, probably the greatest movie ever made. And
that's the 8-hour one, right, or something?
I speak very hyperbolically about lots of things. This movie, I watched it with my dog, and I was overwhelmed.
How'd your dog like it?
Well, I was overwhelmed by so many shots. I would like look at it and be like, how the fuck did they film that? Steve, as far as cinema goes, he loves period pieces because he hates beeping. He cannot watch sci-fi. No beeping, no elevators. So it has to be like pre-elevator technology. So he like atmospheric things with like birds in it, and that's his vibe. But like there can't be any beeping. He hates Doctor Who. That's like his number one op.
Sweet. Steve would like my roommate because he's like he's like kind of has like a bit of like sound autism spectrum stuff, and so he turns off all the beeping like on all the microwaves and everything because it'll just drive him crazy.
Yeah, Steve, I think is going deaf, and so he can only hear the beeps, and so he like does love it. But yeah, he's Steve McQueen, so
we'll have to get you on a tripod, like because so Gabe, the guy that we did that I did the 2 Anna Kareninas with, we were talking about doing War and Peace, so maybe we'll have like a trio episode just doing that.
War and Peace, I mean, it's so good, and I'm not like a war. I don't know. I like Napoleonic stuff, but like war movies and like long movies, I have to build myself up to them a lot. It was like. It moved like a bullet. I watched the 4 parts over 4 days, and so I watched 1 part a day. And I always wanted more. And it was like and also like as far as like adaptation goes, like adapting the novel. Having just read the novel when I watched it, it was like his ability to adapt things into visuals that were like that were like things that people thought in the book was just astounding. I think best adaptation of anything ever. It's so good.
Nice. I'm gonna have to,
yeah. If you do War and Peace without me, I'll be mad. So you should definitely invite me back.
we'll definitely have you back. So, what was I gonna say? I thought I couldn't remember. Oh, and then definitely watch Crash, and then let me know when you've seen.
Oh, I did think of the Marxist guy that I was talking about. I thought of his name.
Okay, go ahead.
One last thing. So it's Gregory Lucas. Okay. He's Hungarian, I think. So it's Gygory and then Lukacs. Lucas.
Nice.
So yes, that's the Marxist that I could not remember his name. But highly recommend if anyone is interested in historical fiction, as like the theory of historical fiction. He is like the granddaddy of like theorizing what it means to set something in the past.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to read that. I have a bunch of. There's like 16 things on my Rex list, and to look up. Georgette Hare, Emma, Murmur of the Rain, Gregory Lucas, and then I have to. We should do that point and click game. If you'll write it, I'll code it. I can.
Okay.
It's a mini game. So
if you want a great historical romance podcast, Reformed Rakes has episodes on many of the things that I recommended you.
So Emma Kearney is a writer, podcaster, and law librarian that has given 3 hours of legal advice on this podcast officially. Not just again, she has not. That is available at her Substack is available at restorativeromance.substack.com, and also the Reformed Rakes podcast, which is steeped in depravity. And you can get that wherever podcasts are. That's Reformed Rakes, and also follow her on TikTok. And Emma, thank you for you're going to be a returning guest. And,
okay, great.
Please, because this is great. So, thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. This was awesome. Great talk about movies and like literally everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. You're like one of the. The sort of Venn diagram of like kind of insane sports people plus like people with like strange.
Sports are cinema, so it's like more movie people should get more into sports.
They're melodrama.
Honestly.
Yeah,
it's like you just have to find your in. Like this would release a lot of like the film bro anxiety. I think if they just watched football.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. Well, thanks everyone, and happy whenever this is coming out. Happy July 4th weekend if you're listening to this. If you've hacked into my computer. So, all right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.